All right. I think I got it going now. I think my previous one I just posted was coming up unlisted. I guess that's an issue I need to look into in the settings. But so far, yes, I believe that I am officially fully live in public. So hopefully some of you start showing up. Sorry it was a little delayed, but hey, what can you do, right? So yeah, so today this is kind of more of like an open live, just seems like they kind of go random and off topic anyway. So I figured we'd just kind of chat it up, no side distractions, just talk swords and yeah, get in touch with everybody. But yeah, so hopefully a few of you show up and we can have some fun. So we'll give it about a minute to see if anybody shows up, and then I'll just start talking a random topic, just so there's some content to the live feed, and then hopefully we get some friends showing up that want to participate. Oh, hi. All right, we got someone in. So Vinay Bandisvia 2111. All right, hi, how are you? All right, excellent. So I guess I'll get this started. So I mentioned earlier, kind of what I was doing and why I was a little late with the live stream is I was actually doing some cutting sessions, and you can call me Vanina. All right, hi Vanina. I'm David, and this is Dynamo Sword Channel. This is my third live stream. I don't know if you're familiar with my channel, but I primarily focus on reviewing production swords and discussing medieval history and things like that. All right, looks like we got a few of you on now. All right, excellent. So again, I was doing some cutting sessions, and that's why I was running a little late. So I cut with 3 swords. I cut with my Danish two-handed greatsword. I cut with the Legend of Zelda Master Sword, and I cut with this newest sword, this review sample that if any of you guys have been watching the channel recently, I did a little quick view short of, which is the Musashi Tanbo. So I'll kind of give it a quick look here while we're on. But yeah, so not to give any spoilers for the full review, but yeah, it cut really nice. It was really fun to cut with. Again, Musashis are pretty staple in the thanks is very pretty staple in the budget production katana market. So yeah, so this Tanbo did really good cutting out of the box. So moving on. So what we'll do is just one now. Hey, how's it going, Ryan? How's it going? All right. China said hi. Excellent. All right. Well, hello, China. Nice. So glad people, internationally are watching. That's actually pretty cool. But yeah, so just going off, one of the big things that we kind of touched on last, live stream was kind of oakshot typology and things like that. We had some kind of what if fun talking about, medieval history and kind of the what ifs if, Europe had kind of went the route of Japan and the samurai were prominently. Where am I from? Well, I'm from the United States, obviously. So yeah, so my home state is Idaho. So I'm over on the kind of the northwest of the United States in Idaho. So I'm from Bulgaria. All right, excellent. You know, I knew some folks from Bulgaria, you know, actually over 10 years ago. Originally, I worked at a really nice, you know, hotel and resort in my younger years. And, you know, we actually had some exchange students come and work for us for a summer. And there was quite a handful of them that were from Bulgaria and from Romania. So, yeah. So actually, yeah. So, yeah, you know, I actually met quite a few people from your home country. Hello, Yoshi. I'm your fan. Thanks. I appreciate it. I know you took my rooster. I got you on camera. Maybe. I don't know. I ain't got any roosters, but yeah. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, this is just kind of you know, just a continuation. Thank you, Yoshi. Appreciate it. But you know, yeah. So we're just going to kind of discuss swords. So if you guys have any questions or anything, let me know, and we'll go from there. Like I said, anything about medieval history, anything about Japanese katanas, medieval long swords, fantasy swords, you know, just even, you know, video game stuff if you got it. You know, I kind of know a little bit of everything. So, but anyway, yeah. I played Twisted on Roblox 16 plus, and I got TIV2 on 2010 and Joker 2. I don't play Roblox, unfortunately. I was actually, God bless you, Christ be with you to the end of time and forevermore. Well, thank you. Appreciate it, Red Army, for the blessing. So, you know, kind of going and looking forward, you know, one of the things that I did mention, you know, that I utilized this evening was I have this production sword. I have a question. What's the best way to cut something into small pieces with a long sword? Well, you know, a lot of cutting revolves around edge alignment. If you don't have proper edge alignment, you're just going to be batting whatever you're cutting, because the edge has to go through and it has to be nice and perpendicular and you know, and slice through the target that you're aiming at. Obviously, you need to cut something that is appropriate for cutting and you know, and things. So that's kind of the big important thing, is, you know, kind of keeping your edge alignment. And the easiest way to kind of keep edge alignment is just kind of line up your knuckles with the blade when you're cutting. That way, if you're kind of holding it funky, you're going to swing funky. So if you have your blade kind of perpendicular to your grip and follow through with your cut. A lot of people bat and chop, and you don't want to bat and chop. You definitely want to kind of draw and slice, and that's what's important. And again, like I said, I'll have the cutting footage up on this sword here in the future. But yeah, overall, it you know, it did really well. I was surprised. You know, I was kind of leery about it because it's kind of more of a fantasy styled sword. And even if they are made of high carbon steel, you know, and functional, it is somewhat difficult sometimes for like the hilt and things to like really stay intact, because it's not functionally, the design isn't functional. The design is, you know, just to look whatever it was supposed to appear as. So what's your favorite sword? My favorite sword, personally, if I had a favorite, as far as like on my rack back here, I would probably say it's a pretty close tie between this Royal Armory's 15th century longsword, which is based on a sword found in the River Thames that is housed in the Royal Armories Museum in Leeds, England. What's really nice about this is the Type 17 was a very versatile 15th century sword. It was basically used to combat plate armor in mail because it's very thick and reinforced, has a very fine thin tip, reinforced with a ricasso at the base for half swording and just basically work thrust. So it's a really nice sword. You know, a lot of people are concerned that these thinner swords, these, you know, kind of smaller diameter swords can't cut, but they can. They cut really well. I actually have some cutting footage of a similar sword, which is a Type 15A, the 14th century long sword that has a similar profile, and it cut excellently. Overall, they're really great swords, and like I said, they're the pinnacle of offering a solid cut and thrust blade. And again, you weren't seeing through armor. Armor is, armor is a real, it's a deterrent. You can't just cut through it, stab through it like, sometimes the movies and the video games show. So what you want to do is something thin like this wasn't necessarily thin to puncture through the armor, but actually to work itself around the armor because it's nice and thin, and there's, less surface to kind of get in the way of getting into gaps and joints in the armor, for example, like the eye visors or the neck, and then also with it being reinforced and sharp, you're able to really thrust in and puncture the gambeson and maybe even break through the chainmail. But again, it wasn't a guarantee. And most of the time when you were facing a fully armored knight, it didn't matter if it was with a sword or a warhammer or a mace, it was going to be really difficult to hurt him because, the armor worked. If the armor didn't work, they wouldn't have worked. They just kind of quit wearing it. Put a shoe on my head and pretend this and prove this isn't AI. I'm not AI. Personally, I can't stand AI. It gets on my nerves. I'm just sword guy talking swords. Again, fingers and hands, I guess, prove this isn't AI. Finds an AI that isn't like merging through the sword. Yeah, so my hand cannot merge through the sword, and I can swing it and flip it and woo-ha. So yeah, not AI, guaranteed, promise, not AI. But anyway, this is probably one of my more favorite swords. I really like all of my Royal Army Swords collection swords because they have that historical accuracy. And more importantly to me, as a historian and a medieval practitioner, they were swords that were used by people. They were, they saw battle. They had owners, and that history really draws me to them as being, just having that piece of history in your hand. Even though it's a reproduction, it's still a really cool sword and really appreciate it. But yeah, so that's about that for that. Kind of going back to the Master Sword, overall, the Master Sword, like I said, it cut really well tonight. You guys are going to see that on the follow-up cutting session. It's on the shorter side, which kind of helps it. It's very kind of one-handed, but also the short blade with the two, handed grip really made it really easy to cut. I was able to do a lot of double cuts and stuff with it. But overall, really nice, really, really cool sword. If you guys haven't seen this sword, it is made by Windlass Steel Crafts, and it is offered by quite a few vendors, especially here in the United States. You can get it directly from Museum Replicas, which is Windlass's house vendor here in the United States out of Atlanta, Georgia. You can get it in, if you're in Canada, you can get it from relics.com, which is another great vendor, Canadian vendor. Highly recommend those guys. Really, really great group. Cult of Athena has it. So cultofathena.com, check out cultofathena.com. They're one of our, official vendors of my segment of Sword News and of Dynamo Sword Channel. We partner and support each other. So they're a really great vendor. I highly recommend them. One of the best ones. Dang it, isn't it stainless steel? No, this is 1080 high carbon steel. This is high carbon steel. It is fully functional, fully tempered, has a full tang, and then it is fitted with an internal nut. So to tighten it and to release the handle, you just take a flathead screwdriver and unscrew that, and then everything will slide off. But it is full tang underneath the handle. So no, this is a fully functional replica of the Master Sword, and it's only $300, only around $300. So, and then sometimes you can get it on sale when, I know there's a few vendors right now doing like Father's Day sales and stuff. So you can get 10-15% off. For those of you that are in Europe, especially if our Bulgarian friends are with us, Hi, do you make that so over by yourself? I'm new to this live stream. No, I did not make it myself. This was a production replica of the Legend of Zelda Master Sword. It's unlicensed, so it's not necessarily like an official Legend of Zelda sword, and you can kind of tell it has some, design differences. But no, it is functional and it is, sharp, usable. You can take it out and cut with it just like you would any other functional sword. So that is a bonus with it. I just kind of brought it out and talked to it kind of twofold. Dragon Slayer. It's a little short for a Dragon Slayer, but if it had the magic that the fantasy sword it's based on did, oh yeah, we'd be slaying dragons all day. But I did do a cutting session with it this evening, and did a few rounds cutting with it, and it cut great. So I was really impressed with its performance, and hopefully you guys will go and check out the follow up. And I have a lot of katanas. You missed out, Hypernova. I actually was just talking about a katana that I got for a review sample, which is a nice budget tier katana from Musashi, the brand Musashi, and this is their Tonbo. The folks at Cult of Athena were nice enough to give it to me for review. I did feature this on Sword News. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Sword News, but you definitely should check out Sword News. It's my main sword channel aside from sword reviews. Katanas are my favorite. Yeah, katanas are awesome. The design is correct to the in-game master sword is because the master sword only works with it being magic. Basically, yeah, it's very bulky and very gaudy. And, they definitely simplified the design to be more functional in mind with this. And that's what I appreciate about it. And because you're able to swing it around and use it. I wish the blade might be a little longer and stuff, but aside from that, it's a great replica. If a zombie was at your door trying to get in, what sword would you grab? Like I said, I just put it away, and actually before I get to that, I want to kind of finish the katana thing. So yeah, counting this one, I have 10 katanas. I'm up to 10 with this guy, but I have over 50 European swords, as you can see on the sword rack behind me. So I'm European focused, but I do you also like staffs? Nice. But this Tombow is really nice. It's sub $200. You can go pick it up at cultofathena.com right now. If you're interested, I'll have a full unboxing review of it next week. I was just kind of finishing some of the finals and cutting before I started this live stream. But yeah, it's a really awesome sword. I got some other cool katanas I'll show in a minute, Hypernova. But my zombie slayer, if I was going to slay any zombies, it would again be with this sword. This 15th century longsword, which, in the Oakshot typology, which is a typology that describes and defines medieval swords of the medieval period. This one would be it. Sent star, thank you. I appreciate you sending the star from Berserk. This one, no, I mean, from Berserk, like the big two-handed swords. I got some two-handed swords too. This is a really cool one that I guess you could consider somewhat like a pseudo gut sword, but it is a Danish two-handed sword. Yeah, this one is pretty cool. And so these swords were also used in the 15th and 16th century, and it was exclusively Danish in design. And what's really cool about these guys is they have this really neat lower ricasso that's wasted, as you can see there. So it's kind of very similar to, like, for example, the Master Sword. I actually have a great video that features both this sword in this Master Sword here, where I kind of put the two side by side, because honestly, I don't know if any of you are real Zelda fans, but if you look at the original artwork and cover artwork of Link to the Past, the sword looks a lot like the original Master Sword design looks a lot like a Danish great sword. So I kind of put that together because even when you look at kind of the wing design, and then you look at the deep curved guard, there are quite a bit similarities, and you definitely see that more in the early iterations of the Master Sword. But to re-answer the zombie question, so yeah, this is what I would use. Because again, a thin blade like this is going to cut just as good as a wide blade. I mean, not as good, but it's still going to cut, and you're going to be able to get those cuts. But more importantly, it's got this nice reinforced tapering tip, very finely acute, because I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be thrusting zombies a whole lot more than I'm going to be cutting them, because I don't want to get that close to them, you know, especially if they got diseases. And, you know, that's one of the big things about zombies that a lot of people don't think about, especially with like Michonne and everyone, you know, doing all the cutting and stuff, and just the bloody, gory chop, chop, chop. You know, biologically, kind of play science with the zombies. If, you know, if zombies are infectious to humans, why would you want to get close to them? Because if you get close to them, it gets in your pores, it gets in your eyes, gets in your mouth. You're going to get infected whether they bite you or not. Now, if the literature and the lore and the fantasy is they have to bite you and the saliva has to get in, I mean, that is kind of a higher risk. But, you know, overall, I would say that, you know, as far as that, I would like to stay as far away from the zombies as I can. So I'm going to want to use something that's light and maneuverable, like this Type 17 long sword. I can keep the zombies at a distance, give them a nice thrust through the skull or through the eye socket, get to that brain, end them quickly, and then move on. And then if I have to do some hacking and slashing, this will fit the bill for hacking and slashing as well. Great cut and thrust, complementary. But yeah, glad you guys enjoyed. But yeah, on that side, like with that. Now, as far as katanas, you know, that's the other thing. You know, and a lot of you guys probably have, you know, especially if you guys are fresh to swords. You know, it's been a debate going on for years, the katana versus longsword. And, you know, and a lot of people, you know, say, like, this is a cool one. This isn't necessarily a katana. It's a shinobi katana or ninja toe design, which is a straight Jakudo-style blade. But anyway, really cool sword, especially if you like ninjas and you like ninja movies or you know, anything like that. This is what's known. This was made by the sword manufacturer out of China, Hanwei, and it is their Iga, which is named after the Iga ninja clan from from feudal Japan, the Iga ninja toe. So it's a really nice sword, really well put together katana. You know, as far as the koshire or fittings, or nice iron, very well done. The sukamaki is hineramaki style, alternating, has a nice, you know, soft cotton that's well woven and well wrapped, well knotted, very well forged blade, very nice, very sharp. I've cut with this too, so definitely check it out if you're interested on the the cutting sessions that I have on. And most of my stuff is playlists, so if I'm mentioning it now and I say, like, go check out the cutting videos, go check out the sword reviews, you should be able to just go to playlists, and I have everything that I film and send in a playlist. So if I say go check out the cutting, go check out the cutting playlist. You'll see it down. You scroll down a little bit and you'll find it. But yeah, this is really cool. And so yeah, I got a lot of katanas, and actually, a lot of you might, now you can't see it because I'm on, you know, the portfolio for the live stream, but usually over here, when you're watching my videos, you'll see that two of the swords that are on the rack here on the table are actually normally this Legend of Zelda Master Sword and my Conan the Barbarian Atlantean Sword. And I actually decided that I would switch that out variety, and I added 3 of my katanas over here. So again, so I have that Hanwei Iga, I have my Ronin katana Dojo Pro Model 15, which is a nice one because this one's very unique because it's short. And this was a very unique katana. This is why I got it. Ronin katanas, nice. They're nice, durable, dojo style cutters, very focused on durability and cutting in mind. They're made of 1060 thorough hardened steel. So they do not have a traditional homon or a differentially hardened, but they are meant to just kind of go to town in the dojo. Synthetic silk, tightly wrapped, iron fittings as far as the koshire, so your fuchi band, your suba, your kashira are all going to be iron, which is really nice, nice and durable, nice wasted hourglass style suka. So yeah, overall really nice sword. But I like this one because it was shorter. And that means that, and when you look at more of the traditional uchi katana, uchi katana tend to, especially in the Sengoku period, tend to be a little bit smaller in length. You don't usually see them in that 27, 28, 29-inch blade length that you see in the Edo period, or you see a more modern reproduction katana. So I have a half dozen Rona katana from Rona Katana. Nice. Have you ever handled this one, the 16, not 16, 15, model 15? So they have technically three ko-katanas. They have the red belly snake, I think it's called, or the red dragon. And then they have the model 10, which is the all black. No worries, bro. No worries. GR Billy. Hey, I remember you from the last stream. Nice seeing you again. But yeah, so with this Ronin, I really, and honestly, I don't know if Chris will admit to it or not, but when Chris and Paul were really partnering up in like the 2010s, I suggested he do something like this because I said, honestly, Chris, one of the things that isn't really represented, you have two versions of shorter katanas. You have, of course, wakizashi, which are normally, single-handed, or you have those weird ko-katana, the cheaper ko-katana that were basically just a wakizashi blade on a standard, 10-inch suka. And then you have traditional, more closer to uchigatana or ko-katana that were kind of more ninja-to, which were like this, but most of them were curved because nobody was really doing a straight blade, but they were about 24 inches in blade length and had more of a full tank to match. And then, this one is the Hanwei Iga Ninja-to, if you haven't seen it. It's kind of more on the expensive side. It's more of a mid-tier sword. It's really hard to find now that they've discontinued it and Hanwei is shut down. Hopefully Dragon King, which since they took over the Hanwei brand, will bring it back, as well as its sister sword, the Koga Ninja-to. But I really love it, and it's nice, straight, traditional, or not traditional because it's not a real sword, more of a fantasy design, but the Chikudo style Ninja-to seen in the 80s with like the Shokazuki movies and things like that. But it's a really nice sword. It's fitted and put together just like their high-end katana. So I would say it's comparable to like their Tombo and Kami and Bushido katanas. So very similar fittings and fit and finish to it. Really nice. But over 5160 high carbon, differentially hardened. So yeah, really nice blade, really nice sword. But yeah, with the Ronins, back to the Ronins, 26-inch blade, wasn't there also a sword that was basically a katana blade with the wakizashi length handle? I can't remember what that was called. There was, and it was just, there was single-handed long, long swords, I guess you could say, in the Japanese. Not all of them were two-handed, but for the most part, most of them were. Once you start seeing that uchigatana design, which is what we consider the standard katana, with the longer two-handed suka and the single-edged curved blade, suba, and the more simple fittings, katana uchi from RVA Katana is a single-handed katana. Yeah, the katade uchi. So yeah, and that's usually just, and there is, and like I said, that it's uncommon, but it wasn't, not single hand. Yeah, single hand. I understand, but yeah, so they were possible, but normally they weren't really sought after. And if they were being used, God, I want to remember. And I actually have a Japanese koshire book here, so let's see if we can find it. And we might find it because I actually have my koshire sword mounting book here. Let's see if we can find a single-handed. I want to say they were post Edo period, like Meiji era, but I could be wrong. Let's take a look. But yeah, with the Daito, you know, they could be single-handed, but you know, it was very rare. Let's see if we can find one. Not really seeing one. Most everything being. And like I said, again, this is more for centered around more like Koshire styles. Like, you know, like with Owari, like this is like the Ninja Toe is definitely like kind of the more Owari style, which is that longer Kashira, and usually has that open band. Owari style became very popular in the World War II era with those. And that's a whole bunch of swords. It sure is, yeah. So this is my whole European collection. You know, everybody's been kind of talking about the katanas, so I don't know if you can really see them down. I guess I got a little high, but I got some of my katanas down here, and we're actually, you just jumped in. From what I recall, a lot of the more unusual sites in Honto came about from cutting down old swords to new styles. And yeah, and that was usually it. And that's usually how most wakizashi were made. They were usually made with a naginata blade where the naginata was cut, or, you know, or a katana that broke. So they would, you know, kind of take, you know, where the couture. So let's say that I had, because normally with the katana, you're cutting with the sweet spot here. So if you're going to have like a shock or break, it's usually lower. So, and it's usually like from defense or something. So if you crack the blade and you broke the blade here, got a bad chip, they'd cut it off, and then they would work this part of the blade into a tang, and then they would fit it as a tanto dagger or a wakizashi or shoto. But yeah, I'm not really seeing anything in the department of single-handed in this book, at least. You know, they were showing some older Tai Chi era swords that you could definitely tell were, you know, more single-handed and kind of that more Chikudo era, you know, kind of like these right here. The number 22 Kojin Runa is pretty nice. Yeah, I think that's the one with the red saya that's like called like the red belly snake or something. I remember right. I don't know if you guys can see that real. So you can see like, yeah, so there were single-handed Japanese swords in ancient Japanese history, but overall, yeah, you know, yeah, I would, you know, it's not unfounded, but anyway, yeah. So, but back to the Ronin in general. So I was talking to Chris and Paul, and we were just shooting PMs on Sword Buyer's Guide Forum, and I said, Chris, it'd be really cool if you did, you know, a more, you know, shorter, you know, functional katana that wasn't a katana or a long-handled wakizashi. And next, you know, he comes out with this 26-inch bladed. Yeah, it does. Yeah, they're both like almost like a daisho, and I think they have a wakizashi, and then they have kind of like the dragon suba that's kind of flat and kind of bland in my opinion, but you know, to each their own. I like that. You know, it was a tie between, you know, I wanted this one because I know this one was kind of made with my suggestion. I knew I had to have the 26-inch when it came out, so I grabbed it. I've had this sword forever, you know, but overall, yeah, I wanted that 26-inch blade because it represented what I wanted, which was kind of that shorter, you know, for doing IA and Bato, which is what I really wanted because, you know, I am a pretty adamant studier of Aido and Battle Jitsu. I've always loved, you know, learning and following through on sword drawing. So yeah, so this sword being shorter and me kind of being more of a shorter guy, I'm only you know, 5'7" I guess you could say, 5'8" if I want to sound tall. Onisuba, I like it. Yeah, the Onisuba is you know, they're pretty nice. I like this one because it's kind of like a shuriken. You know, and I always like that. And I just kind of liked how Ronin was always very simple, and they weren't real gaudy with their koshire. You know, probably my oldest katana available to show right now. My first functional katana ever was a Hanwei practical katana. And, you know, that one worked great, but the problem is it had that old problem that the old original Hanwei practicals had, which is, you know, I hated that suede. I hated the bulky axe handle suka. It just cramped my thumb. And the plastic Samagawe was just like, ick. And of course, they glued the suka on. So when things came loose, you were kind of SOL because that suka was so glued, you couldn't really tighten it. And, you know, and it would just kind of fall apart. So it kind of sucked. But understandable, you know. I don't mind a long blade either. I just find it difficult because with the drawing, I prefer a shorter blade. I know they say that you should learn to do bato with a longer blade, but you know, I prefer. I mean, you know, my Shinsakudo, my Nihonto is a 29-inch blade, and I have no issue drawing and cutting with it. Do I prefer the shorter blade? Sure, but I can cut with it. You know, well, obviously I can cut with it, but I mean I can draw and undraw it. You know, but you know, there's something about these, you know, shorter swords that just, you know, make them just a little easier, I guess you could say. But yeah, but one more old guy to show, and this is kind of coincided kind of like with the Musashi. So this is my old original Musashi Shirokawa. You got an AR-15 for sale? I don't. I just have swords. I know. I'm the guy that, you know, kind of hides in the bunker till you run out of bullets, and I run out and chase you with a sword. And hopefully you don't got an extra clip that I wasn't aware of. But yeah, no guns here, unfortunately. You know, talking to my brother because he's a gun guy. He's also, LOL, I sub. Oh, well, so, you know, my brother, and, you know, and it also depends on on how tall you are or how long your reach is, because that matters too. Because when you're drawing, like I said, this is a 20-inch blade. See, I can draw it and it's loose at full extension. So that's about as long as I want to go without having to draw it back further. If I have it like kind of right where I want it and I draw it, see, I'm able to draw it pretty smoothly. But if, you know, you know, if it's longer, let's say like it's longer and it's full up, see, I have more difficulty. See, I'm going to have to kind of pull the Kasaki out rather than just let it flow out, which can be difficult, especially with a bato, you know, sliced cut, you know, direct from. But I've done it. I've done bato cuts with my longer katanas as well. But yeah, but this Musashi, like I said, this guy I bought in 2011, and he's kind of held the test of time. Nice and sturdy, still strong, still cuts. Really awesome sword. So yeah, my other katanas I have, you know, kind of out of reach. I'm going to reach up and grab the Nihonto because I know a lot of you love seeing that one. I'll put the Master Sword away. So hopefully you guys got all your questions answered about the. I'm 5'5", so I'm sticking with my daggers. Yeah, you know, I mean, I'm kind of a short guy too, so you know, is what it is. But yeah, you know, there's nothing, you know, obviously, and that's the contradiction. Because I'll tell you right now, all of my long swords, my European swords, are over 30-inch blade length. I mean, an arming sword, your standard arming sword, you know, like this guy right here, let's just pull an arming sword out real quick. Now, if you compare him to a katana, yeah, he's 30. Jocko, hey, Jocko, how's it going, bud? Good seeing you again. You know, when you compare this to a katana, so here's your standard 28-inch katana again, and you put them side by side, blade to blade at least. Let's see. So, and I'm just going to draw it out. See, look at that. Look how much longer that arming sword is to the katana. Obviously, math, 30 inches to 28 inches. So, well, 31 inches to 28 inches. So 3 inches, which obviously you can see. But yeah, so again, why is this too long and this is just right for an arming sword? Well, it's because you use it different. You know, an arming sword, you're thrusting, you're using it more single-handedly. You want that reach, you want that arching cut, you want that distance. With the katana, again, you know, you're using it two-hand, and it's more of a cutting sword. So it's, you know, so when you're cutting with it, you need that more, you want to get in that sweet spot, you want to get in that arch, so you want it a little bit closer, and, you know, you want to be outreaching with it. If I recall, the katana was still primarily a sidearm, as we samurai carried pull arms, bows as a prime. Absolutely, all swords. Even the European swords were still considered sidearms because they were worn on the hip, and you drew it as kind of more of a secondary weapon. So even the medieval knight, you know, or even the medieval man-at-arms, he would have an axe or a pole axe or a spear or a lance or something else before he drew his sword, you know. And a lot of it too is that I just subscribe. Thank you, Marcus. I appreciate it. I appreciate the subscription and all that. Also, you don't hold it right below the Suba. Novice mistakes. There must be space. Well, I'm just showing it off. When I hold a katana traditionally, that's where I hold it, which is right where you're supposed to hold it. So, and then you're also supposed to hold it more handshake. So that's how I hold a katana. But yeah, but thanks for noticing. Yeah, because a lot of people hold it up here and they're like, whoa, 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 you know. But no. When you want it up, because you want your hands to draw out and you want to have that nice grip, because when you draw it down, it helps with the flow. That's why a nice waisted suka will feel good in the grip too. But yeah, a lot of people grip up tight, but that's not really the purpose of the suba. The suba is not really as much to protect your hands from oncoming attacks like a cross guard of a arming sword or a long sword. I mean, it will, but at the same time, it's primarily to keep your hand from sliding up. That's why a lot of people that, you know, want to use like shikozumi or, swords that are out of fitting, oh gosh, now I sound like an amateur because I can't remember the name. But you know, the unmounted katanas and their anyway, I'm not going to hang myself up on it. You know, it's risky using it because you don't have that suba to protect your hand, especially on that wood that doesn't have the samagawa and the iromaki on it, because your hand's going to slide around and it's not going to be as firmly gripped as with, you know, I mean, Ito has a purpose. The wrap has a purpose. It's to keep your grip. The diamonds have a grip because it keeps your fingers in place, keeps your fingers locked where it's supposed to. Shirisaya. Yes, Shirisaya. I am blonde. I had my blonde moment. Hopefully that's the blonde moment of the live interview. But yeah, Shirisaya. Thank you, Red. Thank you, bud. I appreciate it. But yeah, but you see, especially in the movies, you know, especially the Yakuza always use a Shirisaya. And why? You know, that a Shirisaya is meant to house the blade when you're not using it, to store the blade cleanly and effectively, because there's a lot of air and gap that can get in, you know, standard koshire. And so, you know, that's what you want. You want that Shirisaya to help kind of preserve and protect that blade. But yeah, anyway, but that's what I mean. You know, it's like it's you handle it differently. A katana is handled different than an arming sword. So again, a long arming sword is going to feel. Oh, you were too? I know. Shirisaya. Thank you, Red 14 was able to come through and make us all look less like idiots. But anyway, yeah, but that's what I mean. So, you know, you have the, you know, with the arming sword, you have a different style. Same with the long sword, you know, and the long swords were longer. Now you're looking at a 35, 36 inch blade. Now You're a nice guy, man. Teaching people new stuff is cool. And Skurs, I appreciate it. Yeah, I love doing this. I love chatting with swords. I love teaching people. I love explaining swords. You know, I'm not a snob. I'm furthest from that type of behavior with you know, with swords and sword tubers and sword enthusiasm. You know, if we can't have fun, especially with you guys, you know, when it comes to YouTube, that's a nice hobby, man. Yeah, you know, congrats on your pregnancy. Well, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, you know, honestly, and everybody was high-fiving me before. I gained about 20 pounds. It's for concealment, and that only works for a tanto, not a full size. Well, exactly. And honestly, the traditional mounted, as far as mounting in a concealed weapon, is what's known as a shikozumi, which is kind of like your, oh, what the hell, your, Zatoichi, you know, Zatoichi, the blind swordsman, you know, he, you know, he did that. But yeah, but congrats on the upstate New York 80K. I appreciate it. Yeah, but no, what I was saying is I gained about 20 pounds, which isn't saying much because I kind of gained 10 pounds before I gained the 20 pounds. But me trying to hurt my feelings. Decent pussy for the rest of us. I'll try, you know. I guess, you know, there's technically, I think last statistic they said there's more women than men in the world. So there you go, bud. You have your chance to go get you some. You go work on it yourself. But no, I quit smoking recently. You know, I'm 42 and I've smoked for a good 20 years. I finally quit smoking a couple months ago. And as they say, when you quit smoking, you put on the pounds. And I put on the pounds. I gained about 20 pounds. So yeah, I have a belly bigger than I used to. I used to be a lot slimmer. You'll see that in older videos for sure. But anyway, yeah, so we're just going to take upstate New York's little comment and we'll get it because so we don't need nasty talk on here because we're just talking swords, having a good time. If you want to talk about that stuff, I guess go somewhere else. But anyway, yeah, so I mean, that's the big thing. So a lot of people are like, well, why does it matter so much for katanas to be shorter, or why were katanas shorter in general? And it was just how they were used and what they were used for, because they're cutting swords, and usually cutting swords tend to be the curvature. Now, a lot of theory is if you straighten out a katana, it's technically a similar length to other. Thank you, Marcus, for the congrats on not smoking. Appreciate it. Yeah, it was not as tough as I thought it would be. You know, I really thought that I would kind of struggle. But then again, I also kind of used this in the YouTube. You know, I've been doing this for about 5-6 years off and on. Never really taken it too serious, but I'm kind of taking it a lot more serious now. And sitting down doing the videos and stuff has really kind of helped me from wanting to, you know, go out and sit on the balcony and have a smoke. So yeah, it's been very therapeutic and good. So thank you for that. But anyway, but yeah, I'll grab this guy. So this is my Shinsakuro that, you know, most people on the live streams love to look at because he is traditionally made. Really nice sword. Put the saya over there. But yeah, but anyway, you know, for the most part, yeah, you know, with katana, you want fittings, you want it because the fittings are for you. And like I said, the Suba protects the hand from sliding up on the grip. You know, the Ito, you know, not only helps, you know, kind of make it comfortable and grippy, but also, you know, from really help preventing you from kind of sliding around, keeping it on. The Samagawa underneath keeps the Ito intact, but also kind of reinforces the Suka wood core. So it's reinforced. So if it splits or cracks, you have that hard, dry Samagawa binding, keeping it intact. And then, you know, you have your Habaki, which kind of helps kind of compact and keep everything in, and also kind of helps, you know, kind of cinch it to the, you know, and add a friction fit to the saya scabbard. And then, you know, with the Fuchi and Kashira, the Kashira primarily the end cap is meant to just kind of knot through to keep that knot intact and keep it tight and from sliding off, because it knots down to where it kind of tightens itself. And then you have the Fuchi, which is the reinforcement band on top, which not only kind of gives something metal to metal with the Suba and the Seppas, but also helps reinforce the end, because with the Tang and a lot of the function and the cut and the attack and the defense, whatever's going on, there's a lot going on the blade shoulders. And that Fuchi area where the Suka goes in is right where the blade shoulders are. So that's going to definitely kind of bust up. So it's definitely risky. And then, of course, you have the last functional part, the most important part, which is the pin, which is known in Japanese terminology as a mikugi. And so the mikugi, keeps the Suka on the Tang. And so normally most, modern katanas are double pinned for extra reinforcement. You can see how there's two pins, one at the end and one up top here at the end of the Tang. And then, but most traditional Nihonto and Shinsakuro and Japanese made blades only have a single pin. And that's because not only do they kind of pin it, but they also will kind of scuff and counter polish the Tang. So when they slide on the Suka, it kind of, the wood, it almost works like a file. That's a cool katana, like a simple Suba. Yeah, this is a nice simple Suba. So this sword's kind of history for those of you that are new to the, it's KO Bunny X. Nice, awesome. Hey, good seeing you from last time. Hopefully you enjoyed the shout out from Sword News and you caught that. So the fittings or koshire are from Tozando, which is tozando.com, which is a really well-known, Aido and koshire store, based in Japan. So the Suka, the Fuchikashira, and Suba and Saya and Sagio, I believe, all came from Tozando. And then the blade was made by Kanemasa II, also known as Shinsuke-san, out of Sekigifu, Japan. And this sword was made for me as a testing prototype in 2022, and I received the sword in 2023. And yeah, so did a little cutting review and everything with it, and I was able to keep the sword kind of as payment, I guess you could say, for and giving my final thoughts and on the fit and finish and everything. I was supposed to get a second prototype that was a little more tighter on fit and finish and polish, but unfortunately that never came to be because the project kind of fell through, and me and Paul Southern were kind of left out of the project. But anyway, I got this sword out of it, and it's a really nice sword. And again, who can say they've gotten a $3,000 to $5,000 Shinsakudo, basically as a review sample? Not a whole lot of people. So again, I really appreciate Paul Southern. He's a really great friend, been a really great friend of mine for years, taught me a lot about swords and especially, just the whole group on Sword Buyer's Guide Forum. And, and he said, "Hey, Dave, I want you to check out this sword and review it and tell me what you think." And so, yeah, so that's where this came from. So yeah, really appreciate it. And it is definitely one of the, more centerpieces in my collection. But anyway, but anybody else have any other questions? Something about katana or something about another sword? I had a random question. Do you need a collection license on any type of sword? Something about swords on my interest. It might be a past life thing. Honestly, I think we all have a little tinge of past life in our sword enthusiasm. I think we all have like a bloodline or something that kind of draws us to swords. But I think swords are just fun and cool anyway. Literature, fantasy, video games, movies, all that stuff. I mean, swords are cool, and swords have always been cool. That's why the sword's always been a symbol for a human culture and society through all different types of cultures. So, it doesn't matter if Middle Easterns, they love their swords just as much as the Europeans, and the Europeans love it just as much as the Japanese. So yeah, it really goes along. But as far as your question, do you need to own a license? As far as I know, in the United States, you do not. Maybe some states have regulation. If you're not from the United States, definitely check your local government laws and see if you do. I know some countries are stricter on sword ownership, like Britain is quite strict on owning swords and ordering blades, sharp live blades. Italy, I know, can be a little fickle with it, if I remember right. A lot of sword friends in Germany that say, they don't have any issue buying in Germany. I have some great friends with Iron Gate Armory out of Finland that are, part of our, Sword News as an official vendor. They've never reported any issues with sword ownership in their country. In Japan, as far as I know, there's nothing wrong with owning a sword, but if you own a sword in Japan, it has to be a Shinsakudo or Nihonto. As far as I've been told, you can't have, display swords or so. But then again, I don't know. I've never really studied into it to see if like European swords. I'm assuming Japanese can have European swords, but I'm not sure. Taekwondo I did as a child during Pitcher's Day. I was drawn to the katana, and one of the instructors asked if I'd ever taught how to handle the katanas respectfully. Oh, awesome. Nice. And usually, yeah, the swords would go crazy in London, stabby stab. Yeah, and that's the thing, and that just happened. That legislature just changed in the last few years, because I can remember in the 2010s, a lot of sword enthusiasts and sword owners in Britain, proudly having great collections, and there being a lot of really nice sword vendors in England. Some of them are still active, which I don't know how they're doing because of all these new crazy laws and regulations. Hopefully, England kind of gets back into shape and a lot of this crazy, woke stuff kind of dissipates. And because I know it definitely hurts them a lot, and it's definitely hurting the people and their rights and things. But I don't want to get too political. But it seems like, yeah, it sucks. One of the better sword manufacturers or sword smiths was out of London, Rob. What's Rob's last name? But anyway, yeah, he honestly, I was speaking of the Master Sword earlier. He made an awesome replica of the Link to the Past Master Sword. I cannot remember Rob's last name, and I'm sorry. I'm sure Rob's not watching, but if any of you know who I'm talking about, Rob was great. No European swords are allowed to be owned in Japan. As for England, traditionally made swords are exempt from the sword bans. It's machine-made ninja swords that are banned now. Okay, so traditionally made swords are exempt from the sword bans. So, but see, and that's the thing, and that's what's so funny, because I remember watching Matt Easton's videos, and being a sword guy, you'd think Matt would be, it seemed like Matt was all for a lot of the kind of left turn for England until they started messing with his swords. And he was like, wait, hold on. And it was like, kind of like, well, yeah, what did you think they were going to do? They weren't going to go after your swords. Have you heard of the new invention called a gun? Yeah, guns are great, but the benefit of the swords is well, here's the thing. They're all weapons. I wish Japan would legalize tactical katanas. Are you in Japan, Kobani? Tactical katanas, what are they? They're not even really a katana, because a katana is a Japanese sword, traditionally made Japanese sword. Can you call it a tactical katana? Sure. It's more just a tactical sword. Tactical swords, I think, I've always kind of put in their own kind of subgenre or sub-tier of swords, where it doesn't matter what it's shaped as. If it's shaped like a long sword, or if it's shaped like a katana, or shaped like a gladius, it's a tactical sword. And I've always kind of just pinholed tactical swords into tactical swords. No, I'm not in Japan. I just feel like the Japanese would make some really cool ones. Well, technically, the Japanese smiths can make anything. It's just, who are they going to sell it to? And if they can sell it. And that was kind of what was cool about this project that I was talking about that I was doing with Paul and Shinsuke and Chris was we were trying to get Nihonto lower tier smiths able to sell their swords and distribute their swords out to the rest of the world. But unfortunately, it just didn't happen. Because one of the downsides with, being a swordsmith in Japan is that you are limited to how much swords you can sell. You're limited to who you can sell to. And you're really limited to if you can sell, depending on your, what is your favorite melon to chop? Honestly, I don't normally cut fruit because, it's acidic and it's a pain in the butt to clean. But if I was going to cut a melon, just as far as its consistency and its skin, cantaloupes, honestly, I think cantaloupes are the best cutting medium. I think if you're trying to simulate like a cutting medium, like cutting human flesh, I guess, or something that would be a little more durable, like kind of like similar to like a lighter armor, I would say a cantaloupe. And it's less hollow when you cut. It's more like kind of squishy and less kind of solid and hollow, kind of like watermelon. Watermelons, are just very thick, types. So yeah, I would honestly, I guess I'd cut a cantaloupe. Honestly, it's also my least favorite tasting melon. Not a big cantaloupe fan, so I could cut up all those and not worry about wasting food, I guess, because I wasn't going to eat it anyway. But I guess, I would say cantaloupe. I'd chop up all the cantaloupes, and hopefully someone doesn't mind eating sword-bladed cantaloupes because I'd pass them out, but give them away for free. But anyway, but that's the kind of the thing with a lot of the Japanese swords. So like what you're saying is like with the tactical stuff, I think, it would be cool to see a tactical take on that. Something kind of like a G.I. Joe Snake Eyes type sword that, was traditional, but, had the modern, kind of more modern style, but the more traditional forging. I think that would be pretty awesome. So that is a pretty cool idea. Another one I was thinking, on that is like Japanese, but it's very kind of merged is, I don't know if any of you are favorite sword from a movie. All right, Barfy man. God, I got to say from a movie as far as Doki Katana looks nice. I don't know if he made it outside of Japan or just flaunted the law. I'm not sure either. I'll have to research that, but more than likely if he made it, he couldn't sell it. But back to Barfy, man. Fantasy sword, as far as like fantasy movies, obviously, it's kind of the shoe-in. The Atlantean sword from Conan the Barbarian. I own a licensed copy of it made by Windless Steelcrafts. It's my most watched video, so it's not too hard to find as far as sword reviews. It is my most watched sword review. But I do love that Conan the Barbarian Atlantean sword. It is just the pinnacle of fantasy sword design, I think. The langet, the dragons. Thanks, Leo. As far as like a more historically styled sword in a movie, I would probably say the Excalibur from the 1982 movie Excalibur, that is based off the Lindsay Discerner sword, which was a historically made sword. Albion Armors, they make a copy of the Discerner, but there's also a few other production sword companies that make an Excalibur that's based off the film, which is more two-handed. And so let's see, there's Legacy Arms, Dark Sword Armory, and just recently, and I'm kind of spilling some spoiler beans, but a great it is a beautiful sword. And there is just it's up for pre-order. But I was going to announce it on this week's Sword News Monday, but I'll spill some beans now for you guys. But Kingdom of Arms, from kind of run by Clyde Hollis, just released for pre-order their version of the Excalibur. So if you want to check that one out, it's really awesome. Go check out Kingdom of Arms, kingdomofarms.com, and check out their new Excalibur. It's actually pretty awesome. But yeah, the Excalibur is just a beautiful, the wire wrap. Have I gotten my hands on any historical swords? Have I held historical swords? Yes. Do I own any personally? No. I have a really great friend named Wally who does own some Nihonto and Gunto from World War II and a few older Meiji, late Edo period era blades. And I was able to handle his swords, which was amazing. He has a really great collection. And then as far as European swords, I've never actually been able to handle, as of yet, an actual like medieval longsword or arming sword. There isn't any in my area really that I've been able to find. There is one military museum in here in Idaho, in Boise, that I've been wanting to go check out, but just haven't had the chance to get to. It's at the Idaho State Penitentiary, and I'm hoping that maybe he'll be courteous with me and my sword knowledge to maybe let me handle a few of his historical pieces. But yeah, I have held Civil War replicas. I've held industrial era swords like spadones and small swords and sabers and things. So I have handled those, but again, I've never owned a historical sword. I wouldn't mind it, but at the same time, I always looked at it like, historical swords, I'm all for private collections. And I believe a lot of private collections have some of the most amazing, beautiful swords around. But I would say that if I was going to have a final opinion on anything, I would say that, historical swords belong in museums where they can be taken care of properly and housed properly so they're preserved for a longer time. At least that's what I would say. I'm not, whatever I say doesn't really matter, but at least that's my opinion. If I had a historically sword, like if someone said, "Here, Dave, I want you to have this 14th century long sword. It's been in this museum, but I just bought it, and hey, I want you to have it." Or if I was able to acquire the funds enough to purchase a historical long sword or arming sword, or even a Nihonto, I would be happy to own it. One thing, and not to get too supernatural with you guys, but ASMR sword. You're going to have to be a little more descriptive. Valor Legacy, Asmir sword, ASMR sword. Maybe I'm having a blonde moment, but yeah. If you're asking a question or something, let me know. I hope you realize a historical longsword, it was built to last and built to be used on the battle, so I don't understand why people want to preserve it. Well, because it's old. You got to realize most of these long swords are 500-600 years old. And I wouldn't want to use a historical sword. Exactly. And that's what I mean, because can you cut with a historical sword? Absolutely. If it's well done. I mean, if it's still in good condition, if it's in good working condition. But most medieval swords, because they weren't really taken care of like Nihonto were, they weren't like considered heirlooms. A lot of them aren't in working condition. So you could have a great arming sword but this is a European longsword of the historical measure, which means that this is high quality. Exactly, but high quality still has wear and tear, bud. Just like this sword. Eventually, that's like saying we should wear World War. I mean, they would work, but again, it's been sitting around for 100 years. It's going to be worn out, and even if it's perfectly preserved, you know, its historical value is higher than its functional value. Because what are we going to really do with it? We're just going to go play with it, you know, cutting practice, things like that. Will a historical sword function just as well as a reproduction? Absolutely. But why not just use the reproduction? Because if you use the historical sword, what if you do break it? What if your opinion on it is besmirched because it doesn't perform like it should? Because it's old and it's rusty and it's dull and it's rotted. What the worst thing you do to something you create by not using it? Well, yeah, and because they're tools, and you know, those historical swords served their purpose hundreds of years ago. Let's see a two-hander, like a two-handed great sword. Okay, let's grab this guy. I'll grab my go-to, the Royal Armory's two-handed English sword. No, I would never chop with antique sword. Wouldn't a modern? Well, it would, because it's new, it's fresh, it's meant to be used, just like anything. You know, I mean, I could use an old stirring bowl to make my mashed potatoes, but I'd rather use a modern bowl because it's cleaner and better off. People serve if you will historical sword in order to sell it. Well, that's a collector's thing. But then again, I mean, at the same time, I'll put here I'm in frame. The problem is, Dan, we use not to be shown off. Well, exactly. But then again, you have to kind of look at it as kind of a, it's retired, I guess is the best way to describe it, I could say. Because, again, wear and tear and age have retired that blade. I don't care how well made the sword is, it's still 500 years old. And that takes its toll on anything. I mean, even this sword, I'll tell you right now, this sword is almost 20 years old. I bought this sword in 2010. And it's still, yeah, it looks in great shape. But it's almost 20 years old. And I'll tell you right now, it's not, is it still in great shape? Is it still functional? Yes. But the more I use it, the more it's going to break down. And that's the thing with tools. Because it's steel. It's meant to be worn down. It's meant to be wear and tear. I mean, a perfect example is the original of this sword. Was it used? It's hard to say because they don't know. Because where they found it was at the bottom of a river in a sunken ship with a bunch of other swords, which was known as the Castilian collection, which was found on the banks of Castile. And, you know, this sword, if you look at it, you can go look at the original in the Royal Museum. A warrior that has a sword will always make sure his sword is taken care of. Someone who is not a warrior are not going to take care of what happened to the sword. No, there's something as in, you know, see, and this is another point, Dan, I want to let you know, because see, you're getting very spiritual with your swords, and I respect that. But at the same time, for example, me, I'm 40 years old. What's going to happen to my collection in another 40 years? Well, I'm going to be 80 something. So I'm probably, hopefully I'm still swinging them around and chatting on YouTube if there's still YouTube in 40 years. I don't know. But if there's not, and I die, well, yeah, but at the same time, you still have to retire something because it's wore out. That's why do you think they would make, if that was the case, they would have just made 100 swords. But I can guarantee its technology has not improved. Long swords will continue to remain very useful and very taken care of. Well, yeah, but see, you're forgetting the aspect of time. It's just like us, just like humans. Like I said, I'm 40 years old. I am not in the shape I was in when I was 20. When I was 20 swinging around swords, I was swinging around a whole lot faster and a whole lot more agile, and I was doing a lot more. Is the experience there? No. Obviously, this has grown. But obviously, as somebody joked before, this has grown as well. And I'm just, I'm thankful for how great of a shape I'm in and stuff, but I still know I'm 40. I'm not stupid. I'm not naive to think that I'm still 20. And the same thing is going to be with a tool like a sword. If I use a sword for 20 years and I take it to battle every day and I battle with it, cut people and I whack armor and I break sword and I do that, what's my oldest sword? The oldest sword that I own as far as like when it was made or when I purchased it? Because that's going to be important. If it's the oldest sword, the first sword I ever bought, I don't actually own anymore. But the oldest sword in my collection, as far as me purchasing it new, is actually this windless effigy sword. I bought this in 2010 when I started, collecting functional European swords. Before that, I had a Hanwei katana that was my dojo sword when I was studying Kenjutsu and Bado Jutsu. And I don't have that anymore, but I did replace it with a Musashi Shirakawa that I showed earlier. So I still have that. And the Shirakawa I purchased in 2011 when my Hanwei practical katana finally called it quits. But that goes back to what then, if what you're saying was true, then I took care of it, but it still broke. My Hanwei practical katana. It broke. There wasn't much I could do about it. And it's not even neglect. I think, well, that was the industrial area of Europe. They didn't care about medieval swords. They were just old heirlooms. It was junk to them. But dude, you're missing, you're kind of being ignorant to the fact that wear and tear is a real thing. If I use this sword for 20 years, it's going to show 20 years of use. I don't care how well it is. Swords are not indestructible, no matter how well taken care of they are. You're going to have wear and tear. You're going to have durability break. And that's just the way it is. We can argue it, but it's just facts. You're putting a lot of feeling in your questions and your comments, and I respect that. You can't reproduce 500 years. And I'm sorry, nothing rarely ever lasts more than 100 years if it's regularly used. And you got to think about it. A lot of swords that we say are well preserved and look good, they weren't even used. They were hung on a wall. They sat on a noble's hip. Just tell him he's right. That's what he's looking for. Well, it's not about right or wrong. I mean, he's not wrong that a well taken care of sword that's regularly polished and used, but it's also use and abuse. An extra craftsman and his knowledge are far superior than what can be granted by modern technology and materials. No, that's not necessarily true. And I'm sorry, I'm going to argue with you on that one too, Dan, because technology is exactly what it is. It's learned behavior that is documented. And so what we have is I'll tell you right now, if you took all our modern equipment, our steel, our anvils, RMJ wavering tomorrow. Nice. Well, good job, bud. I had never heard of that, but I'll have to look it up later and I'll check it out. But it's going to affect it anyway because it's going to oxidize. It's just life, dude. Nothing's immortal. And that's another thing. Good point, Sabrina, that I was trying to bring across too. Where are my swords going to be in 50 years? Well, if I'm alive when I'm 90, well, I guess they'll be at my house on the rack, but I'm going to be 90. But, that is what it is. Well, you know what the sharpest sword out there, Dan, is the sword that sharpened the sharpest. It doesn't matter. Its edge is an edge. It depends on how sharp you want your edge. The Japanese, the katanas are popular because, they became popular in the 80s and 90s with pop culture and film. Ninjas, samurai, destroy everything, cut through everything. The ninja sword is much more interesting than the samurai sword or the katana sword, since those swords are very much practical. Well, they are, but they aren't, because they miss the mark with the curvature of the blade. The curvature of the blade has a purpose. It does add to its cutting capabilities. But at the same time, the Chikudo blade was used in Japan for hundreds of years before they transitioned to the Tai Chi. So, is what it is. Every sword is as sharp as you sharpen it. Well, that's the that's basically the truth. Not one sword is sharper than the other, but and I'm assuming I'm more likely, Gr, you're probably laughing with me, in the argument with Den. But Den's doing all right. He's a passionate guy, which is all right. We like passionate guys around here. The training challenges was kind of picked up during the World War II because of the rising sun. Well, because are you streaming somewhere else? No, I'm only here. Do I have a lookalike? Talking Swords somewhere else? Doppelganger, alternate universe, Marvel multiverse, something? No, most were not built that well at the time. No, they were industrially made. They were stamped, and they were just billet steel swords. The thing with the Rising Sun with World War II is they were trying to resurge that samurai spirit into the Japanese soldier. And that's why the gunto kind of became prominently more traditional in its koshire, or its fittings, to look more like the Tai Chi of the Sengoku period. It wasn't even supposed to look like the katana. If you look at gunto are stylized after Tai Chi, which were 13th, 14th century Sengoku era katana or uchi katana. Oh, streaming on Twitch. No, I've never been on Twitch before. As far as the what I'm on Discord, but I normally just chat on there. I basically got on Discord because Azure Armory wanted me to participate in their sword designing, and they post a lot on there. We have pyramids older than swords, and pyramids are just practically just dust. So swords are well preserved and look good because of the owners. Again, you're talking about pyramids, which are giant blocked, that are bigger than anything. People don't realize how big they are. But anyway, the way I said, I buy a sword so I can play with the sword, not to show it off unless I'm going to sell it off on eBay. Well, that's what it is. You buy swords for what you like, then. If you're passionate about it, great. If you're not, whatever. But, at the same time, you have to realize that I think you have a little bit of conjecture on you where you are kind of stuck in the fantasy idea of they've done studies on which the old methods actually produce a better quality sword. No, they don't. I'm sorry, but they don't. Your facts, they've not done studies on that. Steel in its modern metallurgy grades are light years ahead of what was then. Again, like I said, Dan, if we had time machines and we took all our equipment and all of our thermometers, everything that we have, and we took them, we are oxidating right now. That is very true. Best comment we made. S7 katana is best comment. Most of his swords are junk. Most of my swords? Wow, you're being mean now, Dan. God, don't hurt my feelings. All of my swords are fully functional, and they're all well over $300 in my purchase price. But if we want to get mean, I guess you can get mean. I don't care. Not hurting my feelings. I know what I own, and I know what I review, and I know what knowledge I know. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's just here to rage bait. Whatever, if he's just here, whatever, I guess, floats Din's boat. I think what the problem with Din is he's probably angry because he wishes, and honestly, Din, I was right there with you, and not having any swords. When I first started collecting, I had maybe 3-4 swords, and then it kind of built up, and now I have over 70, and they're all functional. They all have a purpose. They all work. They all function. I've studied them, and like I said, the majority of my European collection behind me is based on the oakshot typology and having a representative of each oakshot type sword. And I definitely promote that and push that in my thing. But I get it. And Den was really passionate about what he was talking about. And it's unfortunate that he got mad and kind of rage baited, as you guys said. Shit happens. And, we're all just here to have a good time. Well, yeah, and that's what I said. Anime, movies, and all that. Just like that's why everybody associates medieval swords with fantasy swords. Like I said in the last live stream, if you showed two people a sword like Aragon's Narsil from or Anduril from Lord of the Rings, and you put it next to a standard longsword from the 15th century, they're going to point that sword out. They're going to point out Excalibur. They're going to point out Conan. That's a sword to them because that's what they see on film and on TV and on movies and pictures and stuff. The curvature of the blade happened to work. Swords are just fun. I even like my cheap $200 swords. I'll tell you right now, and this is to deny completely what Din's saying. Our $200 swords, our $200 Musashi katanas, dime a dozen. This sword will outlast a 15th century, 17th century Nihonto. Even back then, if you took this sword back in time, durability-wise, 1060, high carbon steel, modernly made, and properly heat treated to a proper Rockwell, will destroy anything from 100 years ago. It's just the truth. I'll take a European over a katana any time of the day when it comes to battling. Well, and I hope you're really good at it because, again, swords don't kill people, just like guns don't kill people. People kill people. So hopefully, Din, you are competent enough in your skills to combat someone regardless of what you have. Because, again, it doesn't matter what sword you have, it matters how well you know how to use it. And I think that's just the truth of the matter in general. If you're going to argue katana versus longsword, you really need to look at who's using each sword. That's what matters. The Rising Sun produced factory level swords. I don't know where you're getting this Rising Sun, but it's kind of silly. But in the meantime, if I had to choose a sword to actually fight with, I'd pick absolutely. And you know why you would pick a rapier? And not just, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'm saying to you that the reason why the rapier was so popular up until it was replaced by the small sword was because of its reach. Because you didn't have to be high skilled to use it. And I don't care if you're using a katana or a sword or a bastard sword. Man, you really hate Japanese history and samurai, Den. That's all right, though. But anyway, back to what Arjun was saying. So with the rapier, yeah, absolutely. Because you have that length, average rapier blade's 38, 40 inches. And that was its point. Stab them from a distance. Chill pill, and yeah, Leo Din's a little bit cranky. He's probably needing a chill pill, but whatever. He's having fun. We're giving him something to do on a Thursday night, so nothing like free entertainment, I guess. But I have a few cold steel katanas. I think they're underrated. A lot of people shit on them, but they're nice, just as good as Cloudhammer. Well, because they're made by Dynasty Forge. Most cold steel katanas, they're not made by Cold Steel. I'll tell you right now, from my insider information with Sword News and being part of the manufacturer and vendor side of the sword industry for many years, Cold Steel does not make any of their swords. They outsource. So a lot of their European and sabers, that European side of swords were made in India. Are made in India. So most of them were made by OTC or Windlass or a Windlass subordinate. And then their Japanese swords and Chinese swords were made by an outfit named Dynasty Forge. And Dynasty Forge makes really nice katanas, really nice Chinese swords, and a few decent European swords as well. And so Cold Steel makes all of those swords. and doesn't make any of their swords. They all outsource, and then they come to them. And that's something that a lot of people don't realize. I did Cloudhammer. I have a Cloudhammer Mercenary that I absolutely love. Cloudhammer's great. Or another sword tuber, my personal friend Matthew Jensen. He does a lot of Cloudhammer reviews and stuff. And honestly, I might try one myself. I might even reach out to him and see if maybe they wouldn't mind sending me a review sample so I can get a Cloudhammer on my review stream and kind of compare it to my other katanas that I have. Compare it to the Ronins and the Musashis and stuff, and just see how exactly that it goes out. I got the Cloudhammer katana 1 and 2 with Sab Steel. Nice. See, it seems like you're Kobunny. You're more, and I kind of checked out a little bit of your channel. When I was kind of looking you up when I gave you the shout out, and saw that you definitely are more into like the knives and tactical stuff, but which is cool, and I've never really been a big fan of those just because I've kind of been more historically focused, especially with the European medieval stuff. But yeah, that stuff's pretty cool too, and it's definitely one of those that strap it on a backpack and go to work. What about 3 swords at the same time? Leo, is that towards Den or is that toward me? I don't know. I mean, seriously, guy, you were just being mean, Den. Jeez, you're just a cranky little guy. But no, I have expensive swords. Like I said, I don't know. You were paying attention. Probably too busy rambling and typing. But I don't see you with a $5,000 Shinsakudo, a real historical sword that's in functional use, or practically is worth hundreds and thousands of dollars, maybe even more. Well, this sword's worth $5,000. Does that suit your patience, Den? Okay, so odds is neurotypical. Yeah, I'm very tolerant. Try going to a museum, try reading a book, try watching a science program, historical program. Damn, $5,000. Yeah, this is a five. This is made in. This is a Shinsakudo Nihonto made in Seki Gifu, Japan. It was made for me 3 years ago. So yeah, sounds like Den's just full of malarkey. Hi, his daddy left his mind, never loved him back. I think at the or now you're with me because you thought I was a fanboy. I'm just being honest. You can think whatever you want. You're not hurting my feelings. You're not expecting me. You have a nice bunch of replicas. Well, again, Den, if you're open for a challenge, I mean, you're the expert. You have all the swords. You have all the sword knowledge. So why don't you shoot us all an email or a link? And how about Sunday night, you get on and show us all your swords? We'd love to see Den's collection. That's what Den has. Imagine his swords in a combat with a hero sword that's been taken of no match. Yeah, okay. If you think that Low Rockwell, low carbon steel is stronger than modern steel, I guess you're wrong. But then again, all the things we take for granted, like vehicles, airplanes, modern military weapons, skyscraper structures, all our iron and steel production. No, you just kind of soiled the live, just kind of running your mouth and being rude. I don't understand what your point was. Try Googling that word with your perfect condition battle your sword. That's a good point. Your knowledge of sword. No, actually, like I said, if we want to discuss libraries, so there's Japanese swords. Here's Marcus Koshire, Japanese sword mountings, all fully read. Records of the medieval bookshot. Swords in the Age of Chivalry. European Weapons and Armor by Ewart Oakeshott. Oh, let's see here. Here's an oldie, Edged Weapons by Frank Wilkinson. This is an old book from back in the day. Let's see here. We have Nell Melville's The Two-Handed Sword. So, yeah. Again, Dan, you're not really doing a lot of favors for yourself in regards to, facts over feelings. And, your feelings are outweighing your facts, bud. And I apologize for that because I'm sure it's a little bit embarrassing live because you thought you had a real good shake your fist fight. You have too much confidence in modern technology. You know what modern technology is all about. It's all just about selling it. Again, Dan, I don't understand where you're at. There's great modern smiths. Peter Johnson, one that specifically looks at historical dynamics of swords and breaks them down at a metallurgical and geographical level. Uses the proper geometry and even trigonometry to break down these swords and the taper and everything. I don't know why you're so on katana. I'm not even like a prominent katana guy. Yes. Did I study Kenjutsu? Yes. Do I have a respect for the Japanese katana? Absolutely. But at the same time, dude, you're really dragging mud, just rambling and making no sense. Dan, I'm sorry, but you've lost all of us. Dude, you're just rambling at this point. Kind of sad because I really, all the respect to you, bud. Think what you want. But I'll tell you right now, ignorance is hindsight. He did lose the plot because I don't even think he really knows what he's talking about. He was angry about katanas, and then he was angry about warriors, and then he was angry about durability. And the thing with this guy, he's like middle of the road. That's what he's trying to do. Everything is like, well, but if it's this or that, he's very anecdotal. Well, I'm very respectful because I respect your opinions, but at the same time, you're full of shit. And I ain't shy to say it. I do. And it's my professional career. I work with DV, adolescent boys. So, yeah. And I was a bartender for many years. So, yes. Hey, Sword Lord. Thanks for showing up. Better late than never. The Rising Sun is Japan during the World War II, like, duh, and read a book. Yeah, I just showed you all my books. Again, Dan, I'm going to let you go here and start ignoring your comments because you're just rambling and you're kind of dragging it down. But especially with your weird Japanese hate, but whatever, more power to you. What I'm going to say, Dan, is that, again, proof is in the pudding, facts, not feelings. Do your own live stream. Let's see the antiques that you own. Let's see the library you own. And then you tell me, who studied for, swords and medieval history for over 20 years. And you come back to me with whatever you have rather than this weird rambling about knives and stuff. I'm sorry, everybody else. I'm going to start ignoring him and we can focus on something else. So again, let's ignore Den and let's focus on, give me some questions. What would you like? Can we skip this guy's comments? He's what ancient times would call a dumbass. Hey, all the old guys are back. Awesome. If I knew how, I'd just like click on name and report. We'll just report Den. We're tired of his silly sass. We'll just call him a harasser. Giving information. Like just takes away one. I don't know. I guess I can't get rid of Den. But Oh, well. Dan, we'd love to keep you if you could tone it down and just be cool. If you could just be cool and quit being a pain in the ass and ranting like a nutso. I did, and it just took away the comments. Unless, I don't know, try again. My tech. Put user in timeout. That's due for at least 30 minutes. All right, and you're on timeout for 30 minutes because everybody got tired of listening to your garbage. There we go. All right, I just had to teach myself. I'm still learning, guys. I'm sorry. But anyway, Den can't tell the night from a night. You know, let's just leave Den alone because he can't defend himself, I guess. But we'll just say, in a sense, Den shit the bed, so he can get it for at least 30 minutes. I'd leave for a cigar and come back to some drama. Jocko, you know, that Den guy just kind of went boo and just went nuts, and hell, I don't know. But now that he's gone, we can go back to talking about swords or just other stuff in general. Who here's a Zelda fan? Did you guys see the Ocarina of Time remaster? You know, I was talking earlier, and especially with like a few of you guys like Jocko and Sword Lord and stuff, but I got some cutting done with my Master Sword today, kind of because I was excited for, the remake. I fell into the drama trap. I'm so ashamed. You're good, dude. GR, you're good. I love Link's Awakening. There we go. Let's talk Zelda for a while. So anyway, I went and I went before I was starting the live stream. I was actually like 5 minutes late onto the live stream because I went and I was doing some cutting with this guy and a couple other swords for some follow-up cutting sessions, which I hope you guys are enjoying. If you guys aren't, I mean, they're getting pretty low views. So if you guys see something wrong with them, let me know and I'll try to fix it. But I try to give kind of like a little follow-up review with the cutting. So if I'm hearing this right, it reminds you of some guy who actually believed ancient Roman gladiators can beat out a modern commit made of D2. That's kind of what he was getting at. And he kind of just was, I think he got lost in his own translation. He really didn't know what he was talking about, and it just kind of bit him in the butt. And then when we started kind of trying to be nice and correct him, rather than listen and be like, oh, okay, he kind of attacked us and started talking weird. He really hated Japanese culture, so that was kind of an odd duck too, but you know, I don't know. But anyway, I was cutting with this, you know, kind of more because I was all excited for the Ocarina of Time. I watched that on the Nintendo Direct, you know, because I love Zelda. You know, if there was probably two big influencers for swords and my sword enthusiasm, I mentioned this in past, you know, sword things. Well, thank you, Sword Lord. Yeah, glad you like Sword News the best. Yeah, we're going to have a big scoop on next week's Sword News. I got a new official vendor in Kingdom of Arms. Cult of Athena is coming out with some really cool stuff, especially on the HEMA SCA side with the blunt swords. They got a few new lines coming out. Sword Buyer's Guide Store has a new sword that I'm going to be announcing, revealing. We'll talk a little about our buddies over on the other side of the world and with Iron Gate Armory. But yeah, and you know, it just goes to show that we're getting more attention and we're getting more vendors interested in joining Sword News, which means we're going to have more cool stuff to show and hopefully more stuff to do. I've long liked Legend of Zelda. Yeah, Legend of Zelda is awesome. You know, like I said, my first experience playing Zelda actually was like when I was like 4 years old, like back in like 88. My grandparents had these neighbors, and I think they all went out to dinner. My grandparents went out to dinner or something. I was with them that night because my mom was working, and they needed me. They had those boys babysit me. And anyway, they didn't really want to sit with a 4-year-old, so they sat me in the room in front of their Nintendo, and I played the original Legend of Zelda. I didn't know what I was doing, but the little green guy had a sword, and he was killing monsters, and I was running around, and I actually adapted pretty well to playing it. Next, you know, and I was begging for a Nintendo, and I got one that Christmas in '88. And of course, first game is what everyone's first game was, Duck Hunt and Mario. But then I ended up getting taken to Kmart, and was able to pick a game. And my first video game, the game that struck me, because I was a sword kid, I loved He-Man, I loved Thundercats. If it had a sword on it, it was cool. I loved Zelda because it was swords. And Zelda 2, The Adventure Link has one of the coolest looking swords as its logo and its cover on the box. A gold box with a silver gem encrusted sword. I want that game. I didn't even know it was Zelda. Oh, nice. But I didn't even know it was a Zelda game. I had played Zelda before, but I didn't know it was a Zelda game. And anyway, so I went and I got that, and I got that game, and I brought it home, and it was hard as hell. It took me years to finally figure out how to even get past the first part. Would you say the Zelda is your favorite fantasy sword? Ooh, it's close. I would say the Conan the Barbarian Atlantean sword kind of beats it. But as far as video game swords, definitely the Master Sword is that. The Master Sword and Edric or Lodo sword from Dragon Quest is also another high favorite as far as video game swords. Dragon Quest has some awesome swords. Akira Toriyama did a lot of cool fantasy style medieval long swords and sabers and stuff, and the Dragon Quest art books. Really cool. Really love them. But yeah, you can't go wrong with the Master Sword. And even the Magic Sword, like I said, the Magic Sword from Zelda 2. Beautiful sword. And, and honestly, if you look at kind of the evolution of Zelda, I mean, it was the Master Sword anyway. I mean, the Magic Sword was... The Master Sword is the evolution of the Magic Sword. And the Tism. As in, like, I think Arena Knight from The Witcher would be my favorite video game one. Arena Knight is a really awesome sword. It's very Highland Claymore with its quarter foils and stuff, but it is a pretty cool sword. Have you played the Switch ones? Yeah, I own all the Zelda games. I am a Zelda. There's only probably two things I own more than swords, and that is Conan the Barbarian comic books. But has anyone experienced with Everest Swords of Nepal? I haven't personally, but I'm kind of a buyer beware for them. They're poor tangs, junk heat treatment. There's a few guys that have bought them on Sword Buyer's Guide Forum, and they do not recommend them. They're pretty junky. Even the knives, they say don't trust the knives because the tangs are iffy and the construction's iffy. If you want to, Jocko, when you're off the live feed, go check Sword Buyer's Guide Forum and look up Everest Swords, or even just Google Everest Swords and SBG, and you'll get to read those kind of hands-on reviews and stuff from the video. Yeah, back to video game blades. All right, but it's like with the Master Sword, it's just it's very iconic because Zelda's so iconic, and it just its color scheme and the wings and everything. It's just a cool looking sword, and this sword's cool. I mean, $300 for a functional Master Sword replica. And I mean, is it a 1-to-1 replica? No. Is it the prettiest sword? No. Metal Gear Rising Katana was my first sword. See, Co-Bunny, that makes sense because it's a tactical katana. Who would have thought, right? But no, I love Metal Gear Solid. Raiden, even though nobody likes him, I've always liked Raiden. I liked Raiden as a character. And Pro-Recon, I mean, some people like that they made him the Ninja X in Metal Gear Solid 4. I liked him the way he was. I liked him as just the guy that was... Yeah, and I mean, it's just unfortunately with Everest Ford, they're just too good to be true. It's just... I'm just looking for a decent Turkish Polish Carabellum maker. And that's kind of the problem with it. You're going to have a hard time finding it anyway. I like Raiden. I haven't... Oh, nice, cool. I've always liked Raiden. I played the original Metal Gear back on NES. Because I'm old, and I always loved Metal Gear. And I remember when Metal Gear Solid 1 came out on PlayStation. I never got a chance to play it because I didn't have a PlayStation. I was a Nintendo 64 guy because I've always been a Nintendo kid. Had to have Zelda. So I went from Nintendo to Super Nintendo to N64, and then from N64 I went to PlayStation 2. And a lot of that had to do is that there was two reasons why I didn't like the GameCube. One was I just couldn't stand the controller, and number two, I'm a Zelda guy. I couldn't stand. Hey, CJ. Yep, I told you I was going live, and I was hoping that you got the post. You read the post that I was live, but anyway, yeah. But yeah, Wind Waker. I was one of those anti-Toon Linkers back in the day, and I was like, "Oh God, this is stupid." And a lot of it is because I was hoping. I saw Link in Soul Calibur 2, and I saw Link at the the demo of him and Ganon fighting, at the space show, and I was like, "Why are they doing this stupid cartoony Link? This is so dumb." And it wasn't even that. I hated the sailing. I hated the ocean theme of Wind Waker. It took Wind Waker HD on Wii U to really finally get me to play and enjoy Wind Waker, because once they gave you the swift sail on that and you didn't have to like change directions every 5 seconds with the stupid baton, yeah, it was just annoying to me. Honestly, Wind Waker is one of my least favorite Zelda games. And I've just, if I was going to tier my Zelda games, definitely Zelda 2 is my number one. It always is going to be my number one. My On the Beach game, Stranded, Castaway, pick one game. Yeah, and I commented on the last time. Hi, Anna. In a gift. I got a gift. Cool. But that's awesome. I don't know. Or I guess that's just, yeah, all right. I only beat Link's Awakening, Link to the Past, and Link Between Worlds. So yeah, so you like the 2D 16-bit games, I love those too. I played the crap out of Link's Awakening, the original Game Boy. I remember traveling with the family. I was, being a kid, man, I just played it all the time. It was great. The thing I have is sort of a fantasy barbarian style sword, pretty solidly built, but a bit on the heavy side due to the thick brass, draconic grass, and large pommel. Yeah, I don't. Do you know who makes it, or yeah, or tell me where you bought it, and I can go check it out, because I'm not. It's fantasy barbarian style sword. Is it like a Dark Sword Armory sword, or is it a I'm trying to think of something that's like big and bulky and functional like that, and can't think of anything. But anyway, yeah, but yeah, Zelda is definitely, I'm definitely a Zelda guy. And if I was going to tier my game, Zelda 2, probably my second favorite would be Twilight Princess. Oh, looks like I had a little glitch, but I guess I'm back. Mic's still on, so okay, good. But yeah, I would say, yeah, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask. I pretty much love them all. It's probably easier to say what Zelda games I don't like. Bricks and Minifigs CEO fell off. I've been good, CJ. I've been good, just kind of hanging out, just producing content. Did some cutting tonight before I started the live stream. So I cut with the Master Sword. I cut with my Danish two-hander sword, and I cut with my new review sample, Musashi Tonbo, that was sampled to me by Cult of Athena. as a kind of a promotional partnership. So yeah, so I've been busy today. Regular work day, and then got home and got around and got up and did some cutting and did a couple kind of rough cuts for some follow-up reviews, and then came down here and did the live stream. Nice, and it's staying together and it's holding together, and yeah, that's what's important. If it's functional and it's high carbon steel, it's got a good tang and it's well put together and it's holding up for you, great, awesome. Glad you're enjoying it. Because I mean, everybody has a style they like. There's no wrong style. It's kind of like when we were arguing with Den earlier. It's like when you're it's like enjoy what you like. Some people prefer the fantasy style stuff, and yeah, you might meet a sword snob that's like, oh well, you should appreciate a real arming sword or a real long sword because this is what a real sword is. And no, you enjoy what you enjoy. You enjoy Japanese swords, enjoy Japanese swords. You enjoy fantasy themed swords, enjoy your fantasy themed swords. Just obviously be aware of the caveats of functional versus non-functional. If you swing around or try to use a non-functional sword, it's going to break, or you're potentially going to hurt yourself or hurt others, and you're going to ruin your sword. If you want something that is fantasy but functional, definitely go to the right vendors and manufacturers and get something quality and good that's well put together, and that way you don't risk buying a lemon or buying something that's not. I'm an equal opportunity. Me too. I don't. There's really, I've never met a sword I didn't like. I mean, there's swords that are out of my taste, and I'm kind of more particular on what I buy, but I never met a sword I didn't like. So yeah, 5160 steel tang is thick and visible due to the wood scale grip construction. Okay, nice. So yeah, so you're set. So yeah, you got a nice functional sword that you're enjoying that, yeah, might be a little bit on the heavy side, but it's aesthetically pleasing and you have fun cutting with it, and that's what's important, and that's what it's important to everybody. A little bit more expensive, but sometimes you don't want to risk it. Well, and that's the thing. You get what you pay for, and that's just the way everything is. You go, just like we were talking video games a minute ago. You go and you buy a $20 third-party controller. Don't expect it to last 20 years, like an official first-party controller or something. I mean, it's just the way it is. You get what you pay for, and sometimes even what you pay for isn't worth it, because sometimes you buy that. I've had shit for luck with Xbox controllers. Because they seem to just drift off. Playing a lot. The more you play and you wear them out, and yeah, it's like, oh, we'll just go buy another $70 controller. It's like, no. But then again, if you go and you buy the $30 cheaper ones, you're not guaranteed anything better. So what do you do? Do you have any recommendation on where to start with historical European martial arts? Well, HEMA is a big umbrella, but I'm assuming you're talking swords, right? User ZN is we're talking swords, correct? Yeah, don't play with Pakistani swords. They're just, yeah, they're display only. Long swords and staff, correct. All right, so you're going to want to, the easiest way is to get on the HEMA website and look up registered schools that are in your area. That's going to be the best bet if you're wanting to start. Meet a school or a class. Sometimes even local colleges will have HEMA groups and classes that you can join, even if you're not part of the school. And just go meet the people and make sure they're a right fit for you. Because being a martial artist myself and been in and out of martial arts for years, or just group settings in general, it doesn't matter if it's sports or martial arts or hell, Dungeons and Dragons. If you don't get along with the group, you're not going to have a you're not going to have a good experience. And you don't want your experience going negative and affecting your enjoyment of your enthusiasm of whatever hobby or whatever you are trying to study. So you definitely want to meet the people first and make sure. And honestly, if that group isn't for you, does everybody else say crackling feedback? It might. You're welcome. I appreciate you being I'm assuming you're a subscriber. Thank you for subscribing and enjoying the feedback. I do hear that. Yeah, sometimes it's probably because it's rubbing against my shirt, the microphone. So here, I'll adjust it. It's probably because it's bumping my shoulder when I talk. Maybe that's better up here, and then it's less rubbing against my shoulder. So you guys tell me if it sounds better now that I've moved the microphone, or if it's still crackly. And if it's still crackly, it might just be the microphone, and I'll swap it out with my other mic real quick. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, back to that thing, yeah, just search around and find out if it's fit for you. Because honestly, joining a bad school will be worse than joining no school and eating from a book or watching YouTube videos or something. Still a bit crackly. It's still there. All right. I'm going to swap out mics. I've let this one charge just in case I was going to run out. So I'll turn this one on. And I'll clip him on. I'll turn this crackly guy off. Can you hear me now? Is it still crackly or is it better? I see it's still crackly, but I hadn't turned it on yet. So you tell me. Right now, next person to answer, tell me if it's crackly or not. Because if it's still crackly, I don't know, maybe I'm having a function with these microphones still. I guess I can hold it in my hand. Is it better in my hand? Better? Okay, I'll just keep it off my shirt. Obviously, pH balance or something, or me bumping around, is. I'll hold it like a microphone. Still there? Well, I guess we're just going to have to deal with it, or I can get off. Well, I guess I can try to see if maybe it's the connection. I don't know. Maybe these. I got another pair. So. But I don't think I got another pair, but I don't think they're charged. So I don't know. Mics in general. Did they ever get him into work? I saw a video saying the downward slash was broken and they couldn't balance it. I don't know anything about him though. We can deal with it for now. Okay. Yeah, yeah, maybe they're spooks. Maybe we pissed off the sword gods by blocking Den. Maybe Den had more connections with historical warriors than we like to think. And it could be YouTube. YouTube kind of sucks sometimes. My best case scenario would be to turn off the mics and just talk through my phone microphone, which might be better, but then it's going to catch all the other noise outside me. There you go. We'll blame Loki and all the other foul spirits. We need some. I don't have any. Sprinkle some salt or something. Some holy water. We need some holy water. The spooks are getting us. But I just got my sword ordered when you first did a live. Awesome. And what did you get again, CJ? Let me know what you got. Burn some sage. Yeah, Brianna's a sage burner. She's done that before. Here's a funny, stupid ghost story for you, and Brianna's on here, so she'll get a laugh. So my youngest daughter, loves yard sales, especially free boxes. And so anyway, this story is kind of similar to that movie with what's his butt from Walking Dead, and he was the dad in Supernatural. 1045 carbon steel tank katana. Awesome, dude. See, and I was saying you missed it because you just got here, but I'm doing an unboxing review of a sword that Cult of Athena just gave me, which is a 1060 high carbon Musashi katana. So very similar to what you got. So awesome. I hope you're enjoying it, bud. And definitely, like I said, definitely learn that sword before you start cutting. Really practice with it and get your form down before you take it out and cut, because it's going to make it better and you're going to have a better experience with a little practice with it first. But yeah, awesome. Congratulations, CJ. Glad you got your first sword. But anyway, back to my ghost, Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Yeah. Oh, and of course, Brianna says it, because she knows him. That's like one of her favorite actors. But anyway, so that movie that he was in, the Possession movie, where they find the old Jewish box, and it has like the Jewish goblin in it or whatever, the demon in it. But anyway, it's kind of sort of similar story, because sure enough, she's at a yard sale and she comes home with this freaking old like fork and spoon. Like, you remember like in the 70s and 80s when like you'd have those kitchen decor, which are like the giant forks and spoons. So anyway, she brings those home from this free box from some yard sale a couple blocks down the road. And like literally it goes spooky in the house. I know you did. And that's, here nor there. But anyway, but she brings these things home, and they're haunted or something. They're spooked because we started feeling things. We start seeing things. The animals are freaking out. She won't sleep in her room. She's constantly wanting to. I went in there once to kind of check it out and just kind of scope it. And I got the heebie-jeebies, and it just was tough. So we eventually got rid of those forks and spoons, threw it in the trash. Brianna saged the house, and we've been spook-free since. But yeah, it was quite interesting. I don't know how many of you believe in supernatural, but that was quite the thing. My first function sword was 1045 Onigiri, one that was a step up from their standard baseline, as I got it real race skin. It was still tied after despite how much I've handled it 71 a bar. Well, that's the thing. It's like that Musashi katana I have. This new Musashi is going for about $180. And my old original Musashi that I bought 11 years ago is what the hell no, more than 11 years. Shit, I've had that sword for about 15 years. I paid like $85 for it from swordandarmory.com. But anyway, R77H, I want a sword. Well, if you want a sword, again, I can, definitely check out, the full channel. I got a lot of great reviews. Definitely check out Sword News. It shows a lot of the good vendors and stuff to buy from, and a lot of the new stuff on the market. But overall, if you want swords, then definitely, make sure you're the right age. Someone hands R77H a sword, please. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I got plenty. Hand it through the phone, through the camera, I guess. But anyway, but yeah, you just got to look for what you can buy. Hopefully you're old enough to purchase one. Hopefully you're in a country or a region that allows sword ownership. And then it's just finding the right vendor. I highly recommend cultofathena.com for a great sword to buy. Oh, that's cool. See, nothing better than getting a good deal. So yeah, $80 on that. But yeah, but definitely good question, Sword Lord. It really depends on what you want to buy, but who you buy from is also it's very important in my opinion, because buying from a reputable vendor is going to give you a lot of headache and hassle away from a lot of the woos and issues with a lot of the a lot of that. But anyway. hopefully, R77H, you're still on and you're still asking, yeah, we got the questions. We're willing to answer if you'll respond. So yeah, just let us know when you're ready to answer, what you're looking for and everything like that. So I'm going to try to click that back on because I guess nobody's really complaining anymore. But yeah, we'll just clip that back on my shirt so I can have a drink. And we're 2 hours past. So anything else anyone else wants to talk about? Anything going on in the sword world you guys would like to know? I know a few of you are in and kind of might have missed some of the previous live feed, but I mentioned that we have a new official vendor associated with Sword News, Kingdom of Arms, Clyde Hollis from Kingdom of Arms. Yeah, they're all great. RVA's really great guys. They have their own YouTube channel. They're really passionate about swords. You want your subscribers to know about you and your goals. My goal is just to make Dynamo Sword Channel and Sword News and all of it succeed. Getting the view counts, getting, my goal is to not really be famous, not to get rich off YouTube, but if I'm going to do it, I'd love to have a decent, view count, and make it matter. I want as many people to watch Sword News and my sword reviews as much as they can. I have not seen Masters of the Universe yet, but I want to. Being an old He-Man guy, I'm going to watch it, and I'm probably going to even buy it. I mean, it's gotten pretty good reviews and everything. Yeah, I like RVA Katana too. They're really cool guys. I'd like to maybe do a collaboration with them. I keep forgetting to get in touch with them. It might be fickle to get them on Sword News because they're kind of competitors, I guess. But I don't look at YouTube as competitive. I look at it as, we're a sword community and we should all join each other. We should all bunch up, and be friends, be collaborative. There's nothing that annoys me more than sword tubers that act like they're better than others. And I'm not that way. And, I hope, those that do just kind of tone it down a little bit because, yeah, it's a lot funner and easier when we all get along and we can build our community rather than, fight amongst ourselves. I hate that. It's kind of like the bantering with Den. That didn't do me anything. I mean, I could have sat there and fought with the guy all day, and maybe the views would have went up. Maybe it would have been exciting Schologrim collaboration. It should be exactly Schologrim. He just did a collaboration with Kane Shin. And me and Kane Shin have butted heads in the past, especially on Sword Buyer's Guide forum. And I don't know. I'd chat with Kane Shin again. I'm not really against him. Same with Alien Tude or Kyle. We butted heads on Sword Buyer's Guide forum. They had a lot of ego that they didn't want to kind of tone down, and then they went off and did their own thing on YouTube and kind of abandoned Sword Buyer's Guide and kind of did their own thing, but whatever. But yeah, no, I'm not even mad at them. I mean, yeah, we had some history, but I'm just here to talk swords and have a good time. Any collaboration with Dynamo Sword Channel would be awesome to see. And I agree. I've tried to reach out to Shad. I've reached out to Schologrim. Me and Schologrim chatted a lot back in the day when we both first started on Sword Buyer's Guide forum. And he seems to have forgotten that, but whatever, it's I get it. He's trying to keep his, his sword tuber celebrity status, I guess, whatever, but yeah, I mean, the thing with being sword guys is we all started from somewhere, and most of it was like geeks or nerds interested in swords from watching movies when we were kids or playing video games or cartoons or whatever, and then that definitely evolves up to, more serious sword enthusiasm and historical research and martial arts and all the things that we can focus on as adults. once we're able to become owners and collectors. And it just grows from there. And we all have information. Nobody has to be an expert. Nobody has to be the know-it-all or anything. You know, that's that competitive shit that's just stupid. You know, let's all just enjoy ourselves and share the knowledge. You know, it's like Shad did a video recently that was kind of ignorant in my opinion, because he was talking about, oh, the katana and the arming sword are actually more similar than you thought. Who would have thought? Well, only you didn't think, Shad, because everybody else has been saying that for years. Just because you're naive to the facts doesn't mean, you know, there's no need to, you know, act like, oh, I just invented something. No, you didn't. We've been talking about this for decades. You're just stepping in because, oh, you had an epiphany that, oh, wow, when I look at this and I look at this, that, wow, the blades are very similar in length. And, you know, you can use a katana one-handed because they're not really a heavy sword. It's a misconception that you have to use two hands, because you don't have to use two hands. You know, a katana is a hand and a half sword. If you're going to describe it as types and sword types, I basically look at, you know, Super Idol. Now you're just being inappropriate, so we'll just hide that. We don't need weird talk. If you want to talk like that, go get on like X Hamster or something. Well, you know, I like Shad too, and the problem is that I think Shad kind of just, his ego got the best of him, especially when he started focusing on like promoting his books and stuff and building his like backyard castle and stuff. And great, more power to him. I went down to rabbit hole into Cell Sword Arts and said, you know what, historical swords and sword kind of looks badass, and it is. And those guys are really good. Cell Sword Arts really promotes, you know, HEMA and proper functional sword use as well. They can be a little extra on their, you know, opinions and thought process, but they're still great guys. I mean, you know, there's nothing problem, nothing wrong with them. You got to make content though. Nothing wrong with repetition, even if it's common knowledge. That's true, and I guess that's something. But what's annoying is that, okay, for example, and this is like, I guess, me having my boohoo small YouTuber woes, but. And obviously subscriber counts and stuff count. But there's two videos on arming swords. So there's Shad's got an arming sword video where he talks about, oh, this is the arming sword, and he details the arming sword. A week before his video posted, I posted mine. And it's about arming swords. Mine's sitting at about 500 views. Woo! You know, typical Dynamo Sword channel, low views because small channel. He's got 120,000 views on his video, and he boo-hoo him because he wishes it was 2 million. That's something that I would argue with Chad recently too, is because I've noticed, unlike before, because I remember Shad and I've been a subscriber to Shad from when he first started, and I remember when Shad was sitting there in a back room of his house or whatever with a shield on the wall and his little wood swords, because he didn't have real swords and he couldn't afford real swords, and it was hard to get real swords in Australia, which it's still a case. Now his reviews are really hyper focused on review samples, which again is fine. More power to him. It's great for the vendors and the manufacturers to get swords out to him because he's a big name. And when Shad says, hey, I have this windless, like I said, same thing. I did a windless Legend of Zelda sword review, and he did a windless Legend of Zelda sword review. I even did a shout out to him in my review because he did a lot of cutting into durability testing with his. Again, his view, a couple 100,000 views. Mine, I don't even think it hit 1,000 views yet. Whatever. But at the same time, he's sitting there and he's kind of complaining about things, but then he's also, you know, he's not looking at it from, you know, kind of the perspective that, you know, he's in an echo chamber, I guess you could say, I think sometimes. And I don't think that's healthy for any channel. I don't think that's healthy for reputation. You know, like I said, with our arming swords, and I'm not tooting my horn, but I'm sorry, but the win lasts for once, and that's possibly because, see, that's the other thing. Every sword's individual. Not They do, and I like Tyranth too. I don't know what happened to the third guy. Maybe he just didn't fit in or something, or maybe he got burnt out. I don't know, but Tyranth's pretty good because Tyranth takes Shad's kind of over whimsical fantasy mindset and adds some more historical practicality to it because he looks at swords more from a historical practical sense, to where Shad looks at them more from a fantasy. No matter what, yeah, is Shad very historically focused on the channel? Well, yes and no. He used to be with his talk about castles and medieval history and stuff on some of his older videos. But for the most part, he's always been kind of you can read, he's a D&D nerd, true and true. His influence, his passion for swords definitely stemmed from D&D and fantasy, which, again, some of us do. And my interest in swords, 80s cartoons. It is. They do balance themselves, and it's nice seeing them both together because I think Shad was struggling without the partner because he couldn't hold the weight because he needs that drive and that focus to kind of keep him in line. And then they make a good team. You know, I enjoy watching their stuff too, especially, but at the same time, I think Shad's getting desperate for views. Like now he's like cutting pigs in half, which is like stuff we were doing years ago on YouTube. You know, I wasn't because I never was on YouTube, but you look at Matt Jensen, you look at Skullgrim, you look at all them, that's, back in the day, that's when they were chopping stuff up. My case was Final Fantasy. There you go. Final Fantasy was great. I liked it too. Honestly, I've been playing the old originals. I beat 1. I gave up on 2. Never played before. Wasn't really a big fan. I'm playing through 3 now. I almost have 3 finished. I beat 4, which has always been my favorite, but I've been going through the Pixel remasters. Yeah, and that's the thing. Reviews matter, and that's what I was saying with my arming sword review. And I'm not tooting my own horn, but I would say that if both of you watched the arming sword reviews, you watched Shad's and you watched mine is more informational, more historically accurate, and an overall better arming sword video. But again, it's sitting at 500 views because I'm Dynamo Sword Channel, and his is sitting at 120,000 views because he's Shadiversity, and he's got the millions of subscribers, and he's got the view counts, and he's got the time on YouTube for years and all that. Yeah, Australians have a unique version of English for sure. 4 and 11 are the ones that stick out the most for me. All right, yeah, 4 is my favorite all around, hands down. 4. I never played 3, but after playing it recently, I actually like it. I like how you can cycle through the job classes. I also like that they have one of the easiest, cheesiest parts of the game, because like there's like those little houses in the villages where it's like the fountain, and if your partners are KO'd, you just take them to the fountain, and you don't have to go pay a priest or lose half your gold or when you die. That I like that. 6 and 7 and Tactics were my favorite. I like Final Fantasy Tactics, but honestly, my favorite that's way better than Tactics, Ogre Battle. I don't know if any of you have ever played Ogre Battle 7. Honestly, I've yet to play 7, and I'll probably Red Mage in the series. Me too. I love Red Mage. He's always reminded me of like Vampire Hunter D. That's what I've always looked at him as. It's kind of like a little Vampire Hunter D. Den is back with a Z. All right, Den. You're back. Don't make me block you again. Behave and be nice and be part of the conversation, bud. Just be friendly with everybody. We don't have to argue and be dumb. Let's just have a good time. But you're welcome back, Dan, if you can behave. No, that's the game that came after. That was the PlayStation game. There was Ogre Battle, March of the Black Queen, which came out on Super Nintendo, and then the best one, honestly, the real Ogre Battle, is Ogre Battle 64. So anyway, yeah, it's definitely, yeah, I would definitely say Ogre Battle was RTS. But anyway, Dan, if you're going to be a shit, I'm just going to block you again and report you to YouTube. So if you control somewhere else. If you want to join the conversation and have, this is a great group. If you want to be part of it and enjoy it, we're talking about just random shit. Have a good. If you want to be angry and hateful, there's the door. He is. So we're just going to block him. So, all right, Dan, I tried to give you a. I'm sorry. You asked for it. My 7-year-old grandpa just got out of the pit for human trial. We are so glad he's home and thank everyone for the support. It's only 3 months from a full sentence. Okay, great, I guess. But anyway, whatever. We're obviously getting a few odd ducks as we drag on. I guess it's doomed to happen. But anyway, but yeah, so Final Fantasy, that Ogre Battle. I loved Ogre Battle because I loved the 5-party system where you had the units. Because that's the one thing I didn't like about Tactics Ogre or with Final Fantasy Tactics. They're more like Fire Emblem, where your unit is an individual. And I liked how you had these little groups together that were kind of more actual units in Ogre Battle. I thought there was more strategy to that. And I really appreciated that. So anyway, but yeah, Ogre Battle is one of my more favorite games, and Ogre Battle 64. I still play that game, and I have it on Wii U in the Virtual Console, and I have it. I have the original cartridge, and that's what's kind of cool too. Because like I said, obviously I'm a collector, but yeah, I got classic video games for a collection. Yeah, I beat Ogre Battle, but I got the worst ending. Oh, the ending where they basically kick you out and take over the country, and they make it just as bad as Lotus made it. Frederick, yeah, I don't like Frederick. Frederick's a shit, but yeah, Frederick sucked, but the whole story in general, with Magnus and everything was really. I loved it. I loved the characters. It was really well written. There was a lot of cool secrets if you're hunting secrets. Every time I get close to the camera, the frames drop. Don't know if you know. Probably do. I shouldn't have to get up into the camera again. I'll be able to kind of stay here because the last time I bumped it was just to get rid of Din. Din obviously wanted to be an asshole still, so Din can go away. We don't have time for Din. I tried to give Din a second chance, and he wanted to troll still, so bye, Din. I hope you're enjoying watching it without leaving comments. I'm sure you're yelling. He probably reminds me of that little, remember the old YouTube, the original one of the old YouTube videos where the little German kid was really pissed off at his computer game and gosh, he's slamming it and smashing the keyboard and crying and screaming, but I don't know. But yeah, cool. He is yelling. Oh, I know Din's yelling at the screen. Me and all my fake swords, and take each sword and shove it up my ass and pull it out my nose. I'm sure he's having a lot of hate, or maybe he was just getting a snicker and having fun trolling. Hell, who knows? I might have known the guy. I might have known him locally, and he's just having a fun time razzing me. I don't know. But, oh well. Either way, poor Dan. Hopefully he does his own live stream and he shows us all those awesome all that and that massive library I had. I bet his fedora is fuming. I bet. And I bet it's, yeah. I sense a neck beard too, and probably full of Cheeto dust, but I don't know. We shouldn't pick on the guy. That's rude and that's hypocritical because, you know, it is. But anyway, what were we talking? So I don't know. Are we going he's probably 12. That's a high probability too. He probably is. I mean, we don't know, you know. He could, hell, like I said, he could be my neighbor, you know, getting sick of the sword guy and all his swords or something and just throwing shit out. I don't know. But, or he could just be a wacko on the internet. There's plenty of them. That's for damn sure. But anyway, yeah. I don't know. It's like Hoover Crip certified. Boone's gas sniffer. Hoover Crip certified. I'm probably showing my age or I'm just dense as hell, but Hoover Crip. You're just a better person than me. I wouldn't say that. I just, like I said, I have a high tolerance. Again, I work with developmentally disabled boys as a full-time job, you know, as a kitchen director, you know, serving them food and meal planning for them. Sure, search it up, Custer. I will later, but right now we're just kind of focused on talking swords. If Hoover Crip certified has something to do with swords and I'm not aware of it, then you've stumped me. But yeah, I'll look it up later. Boone gas sniffer. Crip Mac reference. But anyway, yeah, another message. It handicap. Wave. I don't know. Anyway, okay. But anyway, yeah. So and then I worked, like I said, bartender for a lot of years. So yeah, you have to be. You know, definitely. Our line of work is definitely, you know, it's not something that can be taught. You kind of got to have it in you and have that patience and that tolerance and that understanding. You know, especially if you follow a program. You know, a lot of it is tolerance. Because you got to look at it from the perspective. I think drill, rap, culture, and katanas would go really well together. You know, what was it? Who was the Wu-Tang Clan? They always loved anime and swords and cinema and all that. So yeah, I guess, you know, rap and, you know, I've noticed that most you know, yeah, most rappers do like kind of anime martial arts. Why don't we talk about what kind of movies or games we want related to swords of the medieval era? All right. Let's see that. So, back to about that, but yeah, mass respect for your wife for being part of you know, of that. Yeah, Wu-Tang Clan was badass. Oh yeah, the good old '90s when rap was good. But anyway, but yeah, back to Sword Lord. So he wants to talk about movies or games we want related to swords or the medieval era. You know, honestly, I would love to see. I mean, there's a lot of medieval type themed games that are coming out. Like I said, we just talked about the Ocarina of Time remaster, which is sword fantasy themed. Witcher 4 is supposed to be coming out soon. Of course, there's the never to be released Elder Scrolls 6. I heard there was like Elden Ring 2 might be coming soon. There's that new little 2D game from Square, the Adventures of Elliot or Legend of Elliot or something like that, that just released. See, that's what I deal with too. Ours is 10 to 17. 10 to 17. GTA 6 medieval for sure. You know, honestly, I'll tell you right when it comes to swords, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was really, oh god, that was a great game. Loved it. I've done a lot of exposés on, which you've probably seen Sword Lord, but I've talked a lot about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 on. All right, thanks for the psalm, Benjamin. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing. Back to video games. Yeah, the Adventures of Elliot or whatever is a new game that just came out. That's kind of fantasy based. With swords and stuff. Kingdom Come, like I said, great game. But Grand Theft Auto 6, Total War. I think I played a little bit of it on one of my friends' dad's PCs once. Was there a Total War in the 90s? Oh, I own that. I own all of those. Well, I don't own all of them because I don't own the PS3 and PS4 one because I haven't been able to find copies of them. But if I could, I would, even though I don't have a PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 to play them. But I have the original Way of the Samurai and Way of the Samurai 2 for PlayStation 2 in my PlayStation collection. I love those games. Absolutely love those games. Those games are amazing. And the combat in them is very, especially for the time period, very realistic and very good, I got to say. A lot of I wasn't a fan of the character creator in Way of the Samurai 2. I thought everybody just kind of looked too funky and generic. I would have preferred a more traditional look to the samurais and the Ronin that you were meant to be. Like a lot of the costumes and the outfits and stuff was just kind of gaudy and excessive. But Way of the Samurai, the original, it was very short and stuff, but the style, the characters, and how everything was great. Check out Total War games. Oh, that's like the new cell phone Total War, the new cell phone games. I was thinking of another game, kind of like it was on PC in the 90s. Have you played? Oh yeah. I played Diablo. I've got Diablo 2 and Diablo 3 on my Switch. And then Diablo 3, I have Game Pass, so I've tried Diablo 4 on my Xbox Series S. So yeah, I play Diablo. I like Diablo. Since I'm kind of a meat and potatoes sword guy, I've always just kind of been the paladins or the barbarians. I lean barbarian on Diablo. Because I just like using the big two-handed swords. But I play Diablo. But yeah, I'll check out the Total War games. I don't really do a whole lot on my cell phone as far as cell phone gaming, but if they're cell phone games, I'll check them out. If they're on Xbox, I'll check them out too. I'll look on the Microsoft Store if they're on there. As far as like recently playing video games, like I said, my brother likes to play online a lot, so I play a lot of Call of Duty, Black Ops 6 with him because he likes Black Ops. And then been playing the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters because they're available on Game Pass. Been playing a lot of Xbox lately because I bought an Xbox last year. Haven't bought a Switch 2 yet just because I don't see the appeal in it. Maybe that'll change if Ocarina of Time 2 remaster really knocks my socks. But as far as Switch, I got a shitload of games on the Switch. Recently, as far as sword games, I've been replaying Witcher 3. Yeah, that would be cool. But they're PC only, right? Aren't they? Or they're like Steam only? Yeah, there's a lot of neat Steam games. Hello, Total War, Massive World Concept games, playing the civilization far more unique since you get much more control of armies and massive battles. All right, cool. So, but user ZN are they, yeah, PC only. Okay, yeah. What about the Total War games? Are they PC only? This guy doesn't even know Hattori Hanzo. Are you talking about me? This guy, Hattori Hanzo? Which Hattori Hanzo are you talking about? And so many iterations of him. You know, there's the Shinobi video games. There's what else was he in? Samurai Showdown. The historical Hattori Hanzo. The Koga Ninja. There was Hattori Hanzo from Kill Bill. PC based, not cell phone. Yeah, see, and I don't got a PC. I got an Xbox. I got a Switch. I've never been a PC game player. Yeah. But yeah, Matt Torrance. I do know Hattori. At least I know of Hattori Hanzo. I have crazy collection of Ichiro Hattori prototypes. Nice. I got, you know, I got something that was kind of cool. It's over there, cut off camera to get it, but my eldest daughter actually got it for me for Father's Day. But it's a cool master sword. I guess they have like these little blind boxes that you can get like in different toy stores and stuff, but they're like to the wild blades and swords. Um, yeah, see, and I don't have access to Steam either because I've never really been a PC guy. So yeah, so unless it's like on Xbox, I'm pretty much limited to anything that's like modern AAA on Xbox series. And then, of course, I got my Switch and I got all my older consoles like Wii U, and all that. So yeah, but yeah, it's kind of limited me. I just never really been a PC guy. I have a laptop for my YouTube stuff and business, but aside from that, yeah, not. You can get a handheld for Steam, yeah, but it's like $1,000. So if you, hopefully we can get a Steam machine going soon. Yeah, well, they got the Steam Deck, but like I said, it's like $1,500. So, hell, I got too many swords to buy to be spending $1,500 on a handheld that I probably won't play as much as I would just my Xbox sitting on my couch anyway. So, I'm very old school when it comes to games. That's my other thing. I definitely show my age with games. I could definitely sit and play for weeks 16-bit SNES style games and N64 style games and old 8-bit NES games. Even modernly today, I probably put more hours into those old games than I do new games that I get, because I just love old games. I'm just kind of, the fun and nostalgia of them. There's just, that's what I like. And, it's rough for me to get into new games. Well, my big thing is with new games especially with like the big open world games, like the game that my brother keeps trying to get me to play, because I played Grand Theft. Our two games we play online primarily are Black Ops 6 and Grand Theft Auto Online. And we had a lot of fun playing together, but we played those to play with him. I'm not a Fortnite guy. I've never gotten into Fortnite. I don't know. I tried it. My daughters love it. They play it on they were playing it on the Switch when we first got our Switch, back when Switch came out. And they're like, Dad, try this. You'll like it. You like Call of Duty. And I don't know. There's something about Fortnite Fortnite kind of annoys me anyway, because I don't like the pay to play. I know Call of Duty does the same shit, but I hate it when the whole game is about buy this skin, buy that skin, buy this armor, buy this, that, buy. And then I really hate the ones that are pay to play, because that's annoying too. Because I think games, as far as competitive gaming, I believe skill matters. And I shouldn't get my ass kicked in a game simply because somebody somebody wanted to spend $100 and got the gold deck, whatever, and did that. It's not. I hate it. And it's getting so commonplace and it's so freaking annoying. And honestly, that's one of the main reasons why I was a Nintendo gamer in the Wii and Wii U, 3DS, DS era, because Nintendo, at least under Iwata, was very customer friendly. They basically, Iwata was like, no, we're not gonna make you pay for DLC, blah blah blah, 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 blah. We're not gonna make you pay $10 for every new track for Mario Kart. And then Iwata dies and Switch comes out and the new freaking CEOs decide, oh yeah, we're going to start doing microtransactions and we're going to charge you more than everybody else because we don't give a shit. We're Nintendo and we know you'll buy it because Mario's on the cover, and it's like, it just really turned me off. But it also really turned me off on a lot of modern games because I'm tired of seeing get the download pack and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. If I want to play your game, I just want to play your game. I don't care about the DLC. And if you're going to offer DLC, Make it worth my while. You know, honestly, it's like Kingdom Come Deliverance. I didn't mind paying for their DLC because it was worth it. It was fun, and it added to the game, just like Witcher 3. You know, with its 2 DLC packs, they were great, and I didn't feel like I was getting cheaped. You know, it's like I shouldn't have to spend $20 because when Mortal Kombat 1, I want Reptile to look like Reptile from the original game. You know, well, I got to pay $10 to change his costume. Fuck you, NetherRealm or Midway or whoever you are now. I mean, I love CD Projekt Red for making huge expansions for Witcher 3, and they are cooks out with another two, coming out with another DLC. They are. I saw that, and that looks pretty cool. At first, because there's so many like fan-made DLCs that are like PC only or whatever, and I always see those. Like I'll see those on my news feed on Google. Like it'll say new DLC for Witcher 3, and I'm like, oh, cool. And then it's like, oh, it's a you know customer, you know, a player made mod or whatever. And it's like I ain't gonna fuck with that. But you know, with this new DLC, yeah, it's awesome, and it's coming just out on the tail end of you know oh what the hell, the DLC, you know, the Witcher 4, which is supposed to be coming out. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Definitely really excited for that. When am I going to start making retro video? You know, I actually thought about that. You know, the Dynamo is kind of my LLC. And I was thinking of doing like, you know, like I got Dynamo Sword channel, maybe doing like a Dynamo Gaming channel, and maybe even like a Dynamo collection channel, you know, talking about comic books and stuff, talking about video games. I should do a Dynamo video gaming channel. I've tried to merge the two before with like some of my Zelda content, a couple of my Zelda videos, but they just didn't really click. And I think they didn't click because YouTube in the algorithm wants to see them like individually as, you know, video games. But then again, I barely have time to do sword videos. So what the hell am I going to do doing video games? Obviously, as you can see, my passion, I got a pretty strong passion and knowledge of video games, just as much as swords. Like I said, if I had 3 big know-it-alls, it would be swords, video games, and probably like comic books. I'm a big comic book guy too, you know, so I know a lot about comic books. I know a lot about lore and history of comic books. Like I said, you could probably pop quiz me on one of those 3 things and I'd be pretty accurate, as long as you stick around the 90s with comic books, because I am not really into modern comic books. I don't like the direction modern comic books has taken. Honestly, the whole woke Marvel crap has kind of turned me off. You know, it just is what it is. Game streams would go hard. See, and that's the other thing. I don't know if I have the technology to do game streams, because, you know, you got to like have it connected to your TV, and I don't know if I'm tech savvy enough to do all that streaming stuff. And I mean, if you guys want to sit around and watch me play Zelda, I'll see what I can do. But you know, for the meantime, I'm just going to kind of focus on the sword channel for now, and nothing's to say we can't talk about video games, since video games and swords do coincide. That's for sure. So, you know, I tried to do like kind of movie reviews, but the movie review kind of got ignored or just kind of dunked by the algorithm. I don't know, but you know, I love talking movies and sword. If it's sword themed, it's part of Dynamo Sword channel. So video games, movies, action figures, cartoons, whatever. I'd watch some sword gaming stuff if you managed it. See, and that's what I was thinking of. Even if I don't like do a stream, I'd love to just talk about it. You know, I'm a Zelda timeline aficionado. I mean, I'm deep on it, and like ridiculous deep, to where I can sit here for another hour and just talk about, you know, Legend of Zelda stuff. Total War is all swords. Oh boy, yeah. I'm a Zelda nerd, hardcore. I'm a timeline guy, but I'm an official timeline guy. I'm in-game lore timeline guy. I'm not like one of those weirdos that like makes up his own like timeline. Oh, the Gerudo had a war. Who's a better Knicks? I don't do basketball. Sorry, bud. I am a baseball guy when it comes to sports. So Ask me about the Mariners. Ask me about the, don't ask me about the Knicks. Ask me about the Mariner guy. So the fan fiction guys. Yeah, I don't like the fan fiction stuff because it convolutes. You don't need to make it up because it's already there in the game, Why we want to. It just adds fluff that's not necessary. I mean, I get that you got to take some liberties and ad-lib things, like, for example, with the timeline split, they definitely cram that up all the fans' asses to just explain the past. Ruby Gone or Will Hill? I don't know who either of those are. You're going to have to explain it to me who they are. I have never heard of those names. But I'm not even, like I said, I spend most of my time doing Sword Channel and doing stuff like that. So I don't really get a time to really sit and watch sports. But if Leo says Will is, I'll go with Leo. We'll go with Will. I don't even know who Will plays for. Who does Will play for? But anyway, but yeah, no, like because obviously they had to add Link to the Past somewhere. And I know there's a lot of time theorists that think that it fits without being in that decline timeline or whatever, but it really doesn't, because the only way you can try and the only way you can get the Triforce in Ganon's hands without Link stopping him is for Link to die. There's no ifs or ands or buts about it. So, and then when you look at the sages that would eventually seal Ganondorf in the Sacred Realm or whatever, and then you have Link to the Past. Now the contradiction is that you have these different races representing the sages in Ocarina of Time, but then in Link to the Past, you have they're all Hylian or human. And that's just retcon because Link to the Past came out before Ocarina of Time. And in Ocarina of Time, they fleshed out the story more. And that's the problem, I think, with video games with deep story arcs, is that a lot of those older games, like look at the original Legend of Zelda, we talked about that earlier in the chat, Magic Sword versus Master Sword. You have Magic Sword, which was the most powerful sword in the original Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2. And then when Link to the Past came out, you had the Master Sword. Master Sword, the Sword of Evil's Bane, yada yada. Well, last game, it was just the Magic Sword. What makes it the Master Sword? Well, because it's 16-bit Zelda and they can advance the story and they can add to it. And that matters. Just like in Ocarina of Time. The game evolved to where the game could get bigger and the game could get more detailed. And as you saw, as the games were able to get bigger and more detailed, the story evolved and fleshed out more. That's why you get more information from Ocarina of Time than Link to the Past, and you get more information from Link to the Past than you do Zelda 1 or Zelda 2. And the same goes with, up till Skyward Sword. They're about the game, so you get about the same amount of story. But then you drive on to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. You have these extra large games and the details and the flow of them, and you story get better, but in my opinion, the story got worse. And because honestly, I mean, I enjoyed Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. I'm not saying they're bad games, but are they good Zelda games? No. And it's because Zelda has a formula. And yeah, they branched off from the formula with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Good thing? Sure. It's always good to try new things. Is it better? No, it's not. And the problem is that Zelda has always had its formula. and its formula has been its identity. And whether or not you find it repetitive and old and time with the new, blah, 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 like a lot of the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom argument is, if you, North American Ball Official, hi. If you take, just the gameplay. And here's the thing with Breath of the Wild. If you take, what do y'all feel about green beans? I don't know, slow cook them in soy sauce. That's the way to eat green beans, in my opinion. Here's the thing with Breath of the Wild. If Breath of the Wild, if you take Link and Zelda and everybody out of Breath of the Wild, does it identify as a Zelda game without everything making it a Zelda game? Am I going to melt them down and make a throne out of them? I am not, because that would be kind of impractical. Who wants to sit on a bunch of melted sharp swords? But cool concept for the TV show, I guess. But yeah, not something I want to do. SpongeBob Ants, sure, why not? I had so much fun with those two, but yeah, it's not the same. It's not. You could be Lord. I could. Maybe I am, and I've just, I left the Seven Kingdoms and came to America, and now I'm just an average Joe. But yeah, Andy Brex, hi Andy, thanks for joining. But that's what I mean. But if you took Twilight Princess and you stripped it of Zelda characters and Zelda identity, swords, locations, whatever, it would play and feel like a Zelda game, because it is a Zelda game. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are not Zelda games, and that's a fact. And they did that on purpose to try to change the formula, but it kind of bit them in the ass in the long run, because it definitely hurt them more than it benefited them, I think. Yeah, the sales are great, but the sales are going to be great anyway, because the sales on Switch were great. And that's just how to do it. How many swords do you have? I have swords and weapons, because there's a few other weapons like maces, warhammers, spears, and stuff in here. If I total them all up right now, I have 86 swords and weapons total. 86. Breaking it down to swords, I would be roughly around like 70-ish swords. And they all range primarily medieval European. I do. Yeah, where's my Roman? I got a Gladius right here somewhere. Besides it on. Here it is. So yeah, so this is the mains pattern Gladius. Yeah, the brand carries the games. It does. Because I'll tell you right now, to be perfectly clear. Oh, thanks, bud. Yeah, it's the Roman mains pattern Gladius from Windless Steelcrafts. It's around $200. Really nice Gladius. Really nice, well made, nice fit and finish, not too expensive, fully functional, high carbon steel. Really great sword. Glad you guys like it. But yeah, if Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom were not Zelda games, they would be generic games, and everybody would hate everything they really on the inside hate about them, which is the rain, the slippery rain, the empty overworld, and the durability system. If it was a Zelda game, it would be a 6.5 game, honestly, on gameplay alone. I have a little over 60 swords, daggers, a few maces, a few warhammers. Nice. Yeah, see, and it's easy to kind of build a collection, once you really get it going. I got, like, counting my daggers, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 daggers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Well, I guess I only have 8 katana. I thought I had 10. Where am I missing 2? Yeah, let me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, I have 9 katana. 9 katana. Uh, the durability is. It is. I hate the durability system. It sucks. It definitely sucks. I have a sword from the Qing Dynasty. It's worth $10,000. Awesome. Well, that's good too, Stars Moth. You do what you do you, bud. Awesome. Yeah. You'd be surprised what you can find in auction. You'd be surprised what people have. Sometimes people don't even know what they have. It's really awesome. But yeah. Um, all I have to be sure. Yeah. Well, like I said, if the auction usually that paperwork was sold with it. Buy swords off of. Yeah, there are a few. Usually, the thing when you buy production swords, like a lot of the production sword manufacturers, they don't really make hafted spears, which is like spears with a shaft, but they'll make the spear heads. Then you have to go and you have to assemble them yourself and put a shaft on them. But yeah, there are quite a windlass who made the Gladius that I just showed you. They make a lot of like Roman, Viking era, and medieval spearheads, and yeah, you can buy those, and then you just get a half to it to attach them to, and halves aren't hard to find. I mean, if you want to get real simple, I mean, using a rake or a shovel handle from your local hardware store, even though it's a little on the short side, will still work for a spear half. So yeah. Exactly. The Master Sword should not have that durability to add pathetic little petty challenge, to the game, because that's all it is the climbing, the rain, the slippery rain, the lightning, the stupid ass durability system. It's all the durability system on other weapons is meant to try to add value to the materials. When you don't have anything to collect in the game that is substantial and it's all disposable materials and items, they lose their value. And that's the problem with it. I ended up saving and collecting swords in the game, not because I wanted to collect them because I like swords. It was because it was like, oh, I didn't want to waste them. I didn't want to use them. Nothing wrong with collecting rocks, especially the right rocks. But that's what I mean. It's like with the durability system, it was how they, kind of, they just wasted the game. It's like, oh, you find a cool secret waterfall and there's a treasure chest underneath the waterfall, and you go and you open it up and oh, it's another crappy arming, knight sword. And it's like, oh, great, I got another one of those. Oh, wait, my inventory's full. I can't even collect it anyway, so it's a waste of time. And then, oh, after about 20 whacks, that piece of crap's going to break anyway, and I'm going to throw it out, and I'm going to wish I had a new one. But, oh, wait, that was my strongest sword. Now I'm fine. I battered around. And not only that is, with the Master Sword, yeah, the Master Sword should have been the goal of the game that allows you to just play the game without having to put up with the cheap durability system. You got all the shrines, you got your heart containers. Give me a reward, Nintendo. But no, they want to add a 10-minute of durability to the Master Sword. The strongest sword in the game, the supposed killer of evil's bane, and then they made it even worse because they made the gloom eat it in Tears of the Kingdom, which is completely stupid too. So no, I am not impressed with Nintendo as of late. I think Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild were horribly written. I think the Zonai are the dumbest addition ever to Zelda. And it just, yeah, completely waste of time. Absolutely. Absolutely. I enjoyed the games for what they were, but I probably will never play them again because they just don't interest me enough anymore. Yeah, I mean that stuff, picking up random stuff as weapons was fun. I heard about that glitch. I never tried it because I didn't want to fuck with my game, but I did hear about that. Yeah, but you know, the game had a lot of potential. But I would say the three major faults about number one, it was way too empty. The was empty. It was boring. I'm walkabout adventure is only so fun for so long. Then it gets boring and repetitive. Two was the durability system. Dumbest thing they ever could have added to it. You know, they could have added less materials, less little dumb treasure chests, less disposable weapons, and just gave weapons to build up on and earn. And you know, and that's what it should have been. Nice, yeah. You know, I mean, when I told everybody earlier when I first played Zelda, um, you know, hell, I was 4 years old playing the original. So yeah, it was, you know, it's still such a high quality that about both games I've played through a bit of them too. They're not bad games. I played through and beat both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. My opinions on them didn't sour until after I finished them. And then I looked at it and I said, you know, this game is completely replayable, and they purposely did that. But like I said, back to my top three complaints of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Like I said, the durability system is garbage. The empty world is bland. They did kind of fix that with Tears of the Kingdom. But one of the big things is story progression and character interaction. That pisses me off because I'm sorry, but when I go and it's a direct sequel, when I go from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom and nobody remembers Link from just the other day, basically, and it's like, what were they thinking with the, you know, what were they doing? It's like, why would they, yeah, why would they do that? Why would they, you know, there isn't absolutely no cohesion. It's like, oh, you know, you go to Hateno Village where you owned a house and everybody loved you and you saved the day and you were the great hero. And all of a sudden you go back in the village and everybody treats you like you're a flipping nobody, like they don't know you. Like you were just there the other day, you know, talking to the same fucking people. And oh, that doesn't matter because you know, we want to make it different. The other thing is that with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, it would have been better if they would have open-ended it, like other open world games, like Witcher 3 and stuff, and Skyrim, where after you beat Ganon, there's an after game. The fact that after you beat Zeldas and it's thank you, come again, replay from your last save is so fucking stupid. It just devalues the replayability of the game because Breath of the Wild is supposed to be those games that you continually progress through. Now there should be an after game where you beat Ganon, blame it on Ganon hashtag, and it wasn't even really Ganon. Like Calamity Ganon was the biggest, dumbest waste of freaking space anyway. And they did that so, oh, you can go and beat the game early. Who cares? We don't want to beat the game early. We want to enjoy the game. We've waited freaking over 10 years for this next Zelda to come, and you're going to freaking put us with, oh, well, now you get to be so open and you get to do whatever you want. No, I want to just play a Zelda game and enjoy it. I think it can be too long to be replayable, but certain games perfectly like Skyrim. Yeah, because Skyrim has that open end. The monsters recycle, the caves refurbished. So when you go back to it, a cave you might have played, you know, hours ago when you first started the game, you can go back in, forget about it, go back in that cave and there's enemies back in there and you fight them and you go in. Yeah, it's bland and repetitive, but at least it's something to do, you know. Side quests are random and they recycle. It's not like Breath of the Wild where, oh, I did all the side quests, so now what do I do? Oh, I walk around in circles and I wait for those 2 chicks to get beat up by freaking bokoblins and then save them. And then they don't remember you from the last time you saved them. So it's like, oh, thanks. Here, have a pumpkin pie. And it's just garbage. It's so half-assed. And the only reason why those games were viewed so high was because they were Zelda games. We do need a new Zelda game. And that's why I hope that Ocarina of Time Remastered reminds people what a Zelda game is. And we go back to that classic formula and everybody's appreciative of it. The NPCs were complete garbage. And they did their little something voices and stuff. It's so lazy. And that's what I have issues with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. They were supposed to be the next-gen Zelda games. And they weren't. They were just half-assed open-world games. Because it looked like what Nintendo showed is that they're not capable of modern gaming development. They're not. You know, and it really showed because Zelda has always been their flagship. I mean, Mario's always been their staple flagship, but Zelda is where they wow people. Mario always gets people coming. Mario is their safe seller. No matter what, people are going to love Mario. They're going to love jumping over the pipes and jumping here and jumping there and playing this and playing that. Galaxies or painting or whatever. Everybody loves Mario. But Zelda's always been Nintendo's like, boom. We're here, we're making noise, and we're showing that we're the best game developer in the world. They've always done that with Zelda. They did that with first Zelda. They did that with Link to the Past. They did it with Ocarina of Time, to where Ocarina of Time became the greatest game of all time. They could, but then again, I don't care if they sell it third party. I don't mind them staying exclusive. They just need to release it more. And they need to quit holding it hostage like some Disney Vault bullshit. You know? It's like, just release the games already. And release them simply and easily so everybody could just play them. And quit holding them hostage at $60 a pop for some shitty-ass remaster. That's annoying. You know? They've done that for years. You know? Oh, like with Mario Sunshine and the whole... Mario 3D All-Stars. That was the stupidest half-assed compilation ever. Played like shit. And then they limited released it. You know, and the ROMs. They are really strict with their IPs. And then they fleece their fans for $90. Absolutely. You know, honestly, my beef with Nintendo lately has been the overpricedness of Switch 2. One of the big appeals to me in Switch 2 was backwards compatibility, because I own a shitload of games on Switch. Because I went digital, and I bought a 1 terabyte SD card for my Switch. And the Switch had such good sales, you know, hell, I'd get a 3-pack, I don't even play them, but I got the Borderlands games. I got all 3 for $20. Like, why not? I've never tried it. I might as well try it, see if I like it. Didn't really care for it, but whatever. Bought it for $20. It was worth it. The proposed value on sale was worth it. So I went and I bought that. But I have literally like 800 gigabytes of games on my Switch. Now, if I want to play those on a Switch 2, not only do I have to spend $600 on the just jacked up price Switch 2, but to get all my games to transfer to the Switch 2 and take advantage of the video game updates and the backwards compatibility. All right, Brett, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for gotta go stretch. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm going to be getting off here soon. I'm going to give it about 3 more minutes. We did have a remake on the Wii with Daniel Craig. I don't know if you ever played it or you enjoyed it, but I did. It was made by Treyarch, the Call of Duty team, and I liked it. I thought it was actually a pretty good game. But it was on the Wii, so it was kind of limited access to people. And I think they might have released a version of it on Xbox 360 and PS3, but I'm not sure. But yeah, look that up, stars. There is a remaster of GoldenEye 007. But yeah, they took a guy's channel down for playing ROMs. But yeah, and that's the problem. Nintendo is always like that way with their first party. I mean, honestly, I'm probably saying Zelda too much. If I say Zelda 3 more times, they'll probably shut this live stream down or try to sue me. Who the hell knows? You know, I mean, just Nintendo's changed so much. They used to be, you know, the gamers. You know, you could always rely on Nintendo to be, you know, gamer first, and now they don't give a shit. They're just as microtransaction-y and greedy as the rest of the industry. So whatever, it was bound to happen, you know. And and it's just like I said, you go back. Yes, that is the one that had Daniel Craig. That was considered the GoldenEye remaster. I didn't mind it. I thought it was a good game, but I mean, to each their own. I also played it with a Wii Zapper. I love playing first-person shooters with the Wii Zapper. I heard about that too, and it went downhill when Reggie, yes, but it primarily went downhill when Iwata died. Satoru Iwata was the heart of Nintendo, and when he passed away, everything went to shit. And it doesn't hurt my feelings if Nintendo hears that, because it's true. You guys lost your heart when Iwata died, and you got greedy and you got petty. And yeah, the success of the Switch was good, but it went to your head and it ruined you guys, because now you're just, like I said, you overprice everything. You never have sales. You don't have giveaways. You know, my Nintendo used to mean something 10 years ago. You get cool little trinkets and this and that. You get discounts on your video games. You know, your points would go against discounts and stuff. It was great. Now you don't get shit, and it's sad. You know, Nintendo just, yeah, they are a shadow of what they used to be in the 2010s and 2000 era. I loved Wii. I loved Wii U. I know a lot of people, oh, Wii U was junk, but no. Nintendo was at their best with Wii U. And same with GameCube. They were at their best in that era because they gave a shit about the games and they gave a shit about the gamers. And they wanted to give gamers the best for their buck. And that's why they were successful. And, and it's just sad today. That's what I mean. It's like this Legend of Zelda remaster. Either it's going to be good or not, it's going to be $80. And it'll be $80 for the rest of its life. And, like I said, back to what I was saying about the Switch 2, why I haven't bought a Switch 2. Because I can't enjoy the backwards compatibility. Because they paywalled my games on a stupid micro SD express card that to get a 1 terabyte of, so I can get all my games transferred over to a Switch 2, is going to cost me an additional $350 for one of those stupid SD cards, because the Switch 2 only accepts the micro express cards. And I got to have a terabyte. Shit, I need 2 terabytes because I want my backwards compatible games, but what if I want to download other new games? And with the physical with Switch 2, they all use those stupid game cards, so it's not like you can do anything about it. So yeah, no, Nintendo's really frustrated me as of late. That's why, honestly, I jumped to Xbox, and honestly, I haven't looked back. I have had more fun with my Xbox than I have had with Nintendo in the last couple years, because I was able to that. I mean, yeah, I played Witcher 3 on Switch. It's my first time ever playing it was when it released to Switch, because I've always been a Nintendo guy. The first time I played Skyrim was actually on a PS3, but yeah, $300 memory card, RAM prices. Yeah, absolutely. And it just went up. When the Switch 2 first came out last year, that SD card was $250. And I said, fuck that. That's way too. I modded my Switch 1 pirate Nintendo, always ethical. If you want to pirate, you want to pirate Witcher 3 on PS4. I have Witcher 3 on Switch, and I have it on Xbox Series S. And yeah, night and day. it's playable and fun on Switch, but so much better on Xbox for sure. And I'm sure same thing with PS4 or even PS5. It's just it's just a better game. Better as far as performance. Nice swords. Thank you, Mr. Ferlero. I appreciate it. Yeah, a lot of swords. That's kind of what the talk has kind of slid from swords to video games. But yeah, the swords. I had a few swords up here. I had one of my arming swords out. They got to a PS5 swords. That's the thing. Trade-off balance. Do you buy a sword or do you buy a video game console? Because I mean, for the price of this, two-handed for the price of this two-handed windless 50th century two-handed sword, technically you could buy a Switch 2 and one of those SD cards, but pros and cons, what would you rather have? And obviously, I'd rather have the sword. So, because, like I said, I'm one of those old school guys. I can hook up my Super Nintendo. It didn't me either. It's just overpriced. Are the graphics better? Yes. Are the peripherals better to an extent? Yes. Is it still, the Joy-Con still going to drift? Absolutely, because they won't use Hall effect sticks. Whatever, Nintendo, you're going to charge me $90 for your new Joy-Cons, but they're just as crappy as the original Joy-Cons. I'm not. That's another one that's too expensive, and I don't handheld enough. Honestly, I don't handheld game. I used to kind of take my Switch around once in a while, like if I was especially if I was in like a doctor's office or something with the kids. I'd bring the Switch just to play around on, because they were going to be in there for a while. Or something, but excuse me. But yeah, no, I'm just not really a big handheld. Hi, Andy. You could sell some swords, buy a PC, stream from where they make more money, and buy more swords equals profit. I could technically, and just kind of do a rotation. But I don't know. Stream from the PC, like stream video games. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could try, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe in the future. We'll see what happens. Maybe I will get a gaming PC eventually. I know my girlfriend likes gaming PCs, but I also got her an Xbox, so she's pretty happy with that. She barely plays that. Collects more dust than it plays, honestly. But we'll see. We'll definitely see. But anyway, nice swords. I had one of my katanas out. This is a actual katana from Japan. So that's my Shinsakudo from Sekigifu, made by Kanamasa II. Somebody wanted to check out Roman swords, so I got out my Roman Mains Pattern Gladius, the Zelda sword, functional replica of the Zelda sword from Legend of Zelda. That's what kind of got us talking video games. So yeah, a lot of awesome swords. But in the meantime, it is almost 3:30, or it's not almost. It's been 3 hours and 20 minutes in. I've had a great time talking with you all again. I think I'm going to cut the short because I'm kind of yawning and I don't want to get kind of laggy and on the feed. But again, thank you guys for participating. Thank you guys for popping in and joining. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys enjoy these live feeds. I plan on doing one at least every few at least twice a month at least. I'd try to get 2 live feeds twice a month and that way on Thursdays and get them going. So yeah, definitely thank you all again. Good night, my Lord, protector of the 7 realms. Nice. Oh man, you're laying it thick. So yeah, I don't know what family would I be from. I'll get Stark because I'm in Idaho and I'm a North guy. But yeah, have a good rest, everybody. We'll see you guys. Be sure to check out Dynamo Sword Channel. And the next few days, I'll be having some more follow-up reviews with cutting sessions. I'll be having that unboxing full review with the Musashi Tonbo Katana. Enjoyed the Steam. R.I.P. Din. Yeah. All right, Leo. Yeah. Poor Din. Just couldn't make any friends on a Thursday night. Was just too high strung. Just too high strung. But yeah. And then, of course, definitely check out Sword News. There's going to be some cool surprises on Sword News this Monday. So anyway, thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.